Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous week. I hope your tanks are doing amazing. Um, and I think there was a third part, but I just hope you're all happy. Couple updates. Number one, you're going to still hear the beeping in the background. Just to show you, it's not just like the website or, the membership stuff that I'm slacking on. It's my own house. So I haven't gotten the fire alarm situation fixed. And it's almost like I'm gonna ramble for just a second. It's almost like you get used to it, okay? And hear me out, because you're like, that's so annoying. How could you ever get used to that? But like my significant other, when I went to put my reef tank in the bedroom, he was livid because he was like, I have to sleep with absolute silence. Let me tell you, I put it in, of course. And then by the end, when I took down the reef tank, now he's like he can't go to sleep because he was so used to that noise at that point. So I don't even hear it, guys, but I'm sorry that you have to. I promise by next week I'll have it fixed so you won't hear that tweet tweet. It's the battery from my fire alarm. My ceilings are so high and we don't have a ladder. Like even standing on shoulders, they're that high. So I apologize, but bear with me one more week. I'll try to mute myself when I can so that you don't have to hear it if something important is being discussed. Second thing I was going to announce is that I don't have any serious update on my fry status. I don't have fry, so that's, I guess, the update, unfortunately. Again, as we've discussed, maybe my seahorses are just smart enough to know, look, the B word can't fix the fire alarm. We probably shouldn't entrust her with our kids. I don't know, but but one of the ideas I did have, I told you guys approximately a month ago, I should have fry right now, that I know I saw an egg exchange. At least I'm 90% sure I saw an egg exchange. Like I saw them connect. It's so
We're
crazy.
slipping a
Active
little bit
pregnant.
there.
What?
We're slipping. We've gone for a no down to 90%.
90%.
No,
Well,
no, 80.
it's just that, where the hell's the fry? And so again, I'm kind of glad it's happening. Number one, because I can't even keep up with my fire alarm. I still want fry, guys. If you guys are near me and have fry, not you, your
Heather is
seahorses have
having
fry.
fry. Maybe get in touch with Heather if you
I
want to read
will,
some. She's been sending them out to other people. So
oh,
if you want to check her, she's got a few males that keep having fry right now. She just said today she found a warning fry in the tank, not from the same male that gave birth last time. So she's having multiple males
and
give birth. So hit her up.
I will. Heather, I'm coming for you, babe. By the way, I'm sipping on Chardonnay. Let me know what you're sipping on. I got my little painted seahorse glass since I broke all the rest of them. But hi, Shyla. Hi. Someone else joined. I don't know who it was. Doesn't matter. Anyways, so yes, and we're going to discuss some ideas for things like sending out fry you don't want or finding out where to purchase seahorses to begin with. That's the discussion for tonight, unless you guys have questions, because of course, as always, it's open chat. So, we're here for your questions. But that's and Shyla, I know Shyla's still having fry, isn't she? Too? Do you know?
I don't know if she's had more or if I think she still has the same ones, I believe.
Well,
Don't
still,
know. Shyla's here though, so we'll have to
I
ask
know.
what's
I
for an
thought I
update.
read that she had some more either coming or just had already came.
Yeah, I haven't
Shyla,
been online much lately, so there may be stuff I don't know about. So let's ask her. See.
yes, Shyla, we're like literally asking you, how are the fry? How are the adolescents? I guess they'd be by now. And have you had more? I know you couldn't ship them to me because you're so far away, but I'm still curious and we're still rooting you on and you're still making a difference. So we want to know how you're doing with everything. But anyways, so yeah, I don't really have an update on my tank except for boy does it need cleaned. That's what I'm doing when we're done here. And I'm still hoping. But one of the things that, yeah, Zen's not here yet. That's awfully odd, but that's okay. She might be busy. We're not mad. Hey, Empire of the Dirt Aquatics, Jeff. Nice to see you here. Anyways, so what I wanted to talk about tonight, if nobody has anything they need discussed, again, it's open chat. Ask your question. We're going to jump to that immediately. But Holly, you brought it up before we started, but one of the ideas that, oh, and for anybody just listening, I forgot to say, I have Holly and Ray with me. Cheryl's still AOL or AWOL, not AOL. But we're still hoping she'll come back. She's just been busy with life. If we need to get Dan in here for something particular, I can reach out to him. So, we still have these people ready to come. They just can't come every week. And if you want special guests, put me in touch or give me a name. I will reach out. That being said, I ramble a lot, don't I, guys? But that being said, we were talking about a long time ago. One of the ideas for me was, if you want fry, diversify, right? Get a different pair of seahorses. And we talked, you can go back and watch that episode. We talked about what that would mean, like as far as, do you quarantine, do you not, depends on where you get them, etc. How do you introduce, who do you put where, and all of that was discussed previously. I'm not going to ramble on about it, but because that's just for my case. But in general, Holly, I'm going to stop rambling and let you take over and just say what people are seeing lately, as far as trying to resource seahorses.
Well, just what I've been observing from posts on the Seahorse group that I belong to is there's a lot of newcomers to seahorses that are getting them from local fish stores or considering getting them from local fish stores. And a lot of it seems kind of like unplanned, sudden, like they just saw seahorses in the store and decided they want to have seahorses. So I think right now we have a lot of people that are coming in new to the hobby, but the main breeders here, I believe there's only two.
Mm-hmm.
I know Alyssa Seahorse Savvy is not offering seahorses right now, or she has very few for like
Mm-hmm.
the last of her stock. I don't know honestly what's going on with Ocean Rider out of Hawaii. I've heard rumors that they're not offering new seahorses for sale either. I don't know that for sure. I just read it somewhere, I think.
Sure.
So those are the two big captive bred reliable breeders that we have here in the US. So if they are no longer offering stock, I can see really rough for people who are
To
wanting to
find.
come into the hobby to find a reliable source for their seahorses. And I think, it's tough. What options do they have? What should they do? It'd be great if we somehow could make it easier for them to
So,
get
okay,
and find reliable stock.
and we're going to get into the resolution, because we're not just about venting here. We can all vent, of course,
Mhm.
but we're trying to come up with a resolution, right? And I am looking at Ocean Rider's website. They do still have many seahorses for sale.
Good.
Interestingly enough, they're all on sale, right? Their on sale prices are still pretty extreme, if you ask me. But
Mhm.
I'm old school. I'm old, guys. I was back in the
Mhm.
seahorse source days where you could get a seahorse for under $100. That's not the case anymore. It is what it is. If
I
inflation
imported
and the cost of raising them. What?
I imported from Australia to here in Canada for less than what they want.
I know. right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, there are things to look into, right? There's things like group buys, and Chris Carey could help us with that. He's not at Seahorse World or Seahorse Australia anymore, but he still has those connections. I actually know Rochelle, the owner of Seahorse World and Seahorse
Mhm.
Australia. So, I mean, like on a personal basis, we've talked. We've not met except for like FaceTime, but on the computer. But I'm just saying, if anybody's interested in doing something like that, that's something we could totally arrange. It's just having the capability of number one, taking the risk. When you're
Mhm.
importing, things can go wrong, right? Number two, convincing Rochelle, because she doesn't even like shipping to the US, because when things go wrong, it's usually to the US. And then
Mhm.
number three, it's you have to buy in bulk. You can't buy two, right? You have
Yeah.
to buy a quantity, so it would have to be a bunch of us getting together and doing it together. Okay, that
Another
being said,
thing too, before I forget, and
mhm,
later, if we want to do that, Chris sent me a link this morning. He might join us tonight. I don't
okay,
know. He was
great,
feeling under the weather, he said, so he has time to join, but he might not be feeling up to it.
gotcha.
So they're having a meeting in Australia right now for CITES for
Oh boy, okay,
so there's stuff going on there that we could discuss too. I have a link for it. So later, if it comes to that, I can um
absolutely. Let's share that and let's talk about it. Just trying to go in order, but absolutely, because I do secretly wonder if there's some behind the scenes stuff that's not causing people to not be able to, like, again, guys, hang on.
concerns.
We talk constantly about how us hobbyists need to buy captive bred, right? That protects the seahorses in the wild because you're buying seahorses that were born in an aquarium. It also makes them easier to keep and raise. You don't have to do the multiple things that you need to do when you get wild caught in. And there's just multiple reasons to buy captive bred. It's the right thing. But we've also discussed that the corporate commercial breeders, they do need to bring in
Mhm,
a pair or two, not hundreds, not, hurting the wild, but a
mhm.
pair or two to get fresh blood,
Keep it going.
to keep it going, right? So I secretly wonder if all these breeders and facilities aren't uh,
Aren't
having
privy to some
difficulty,
information that, yeah, of what's
or
coming.
aren't already having difficulty
Mhm,
resourcing, new stock. Because what the other thing I was going to say is, if you are looking to do seahorses, obviously do it now if you can. Buy from
mhm,
Ocean Rider or a reputable source. We'll talk about other reputable sources too, but
mhm,
like the cheapest ones on Ocean Rider are the Mustang Seahorse Special.
mhm.
Um, One true male and one true female. I'm not sure what true means. Maybe they have hybrids now. I don't know. But a lot of people don't like the Mustangs because they're not bright, beautiful, and I mean they're just Erectus. That's
All
what
it
they are.
means is, yeah, they're an Erectus male seahorse.
Right. And that means that we can show you how to make them change color, right? I mean, not, I
Mhm.
shouldn't say like for sure you can make them change color, but there are so many
Can
tricks.
influence them. I would put it that way.
Yes,
You can
that's a better
influence
way.
seahorses to change their color.
Change color.
And
So
many
don't,
people buy the ones that are colorful to begin with and get them, then they turn back to normal.
That's
yep, spend
right.
four to
Yeah.
five hundred
The
dollars and then
Your
yeah.
Mustang, your common Mustang is fine.
They're awesome. And
Yeah.
again, I know that anybody setting up a seahorse tank, you want it to be extravagant and beautiful and spectacular, but you can make it that way on your own.
Mhm.
And as they were just saying, you could buy a really expensive red or yellow or orange seahorse and it's brown in the next
Yep.
week or
Yep.
whatever. It just my
Yeah.
two, and I'm only saying this because I'm trying to make a point, but I'm very happy with my seahorses from Ocean Rider. I've had no trouble with them. They're very strong and healthy. I haven't
Mhm.
gotten fried from their little butts, but they are great.
Nobody
But
else has either, though. So,
right. And so that's another thing is they always when I first worked with Ocean Rider, they did have a thing where they said you know, they used to make you sign something saying you wouldn't breed them. So I've always wondered if whether they're deep into the generations or I don't know. I know people who have had success breeding their seahorses. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying I haven't had luck with it. But
I
if
don't
you
think
just
they
want
can legally hold you to that.
no, they
No,
can't.
I
I'm just
doubt
saying
it.
it's interesting that so many people haven't gotten fry. It seems to me like either they're probably generations deep or I don't know. I do know also that they sell the red mysids or the red food that they eat
Yeah,
there.
they have mice and shrimp that are red.
And I'm kind of verging off from the actual conversation here, but
Mhm.
there's information there that I wonder about. Like, would
Mhm.
would their seahorses keep breeding if you continued feeding them that? Would
Mhm.
they stay bright and colorful? Because often the food is the key. If you're feeding
Mhm.
them these live red shrimp, would they stay as colorful? But I'm trying to get back to what I was saying. What I was saying is my beautiful, wonderful, magical seahorses from Ocean Rider are wonderful, but I have pictures and videos showing them going from this bright
Mhm.
ridiculous yellow color to
Mhm.
now they're silver. I mean, they're
Normal
just,
seahorses.
yeah, yeah. And I'm fine with that because I don't care
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
I think I only bought the bright yellow ones because it was a big sale. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
but it is what it is. Hey, I see Fish Fam links. Definitely show love by liking this, subscribing, and go to Fish Fam links to find other resources that you can, find things about other reef tank, different discussion group, anything about fish, right? You're going to
Mhm.
find the links there, and it's a really good resource. So make sure you go there. Um, Ray, you think Alyssa's just burned out.
I
And
think that too.
Yep.
right. And that does happen. It does happen. But
Mhm.
so now that I've rambled on and on, what do you guys think we do about it? What do you think we do about the fact that it's becoming so hard to resource seahorses and or there are people out there breeding that we don't know about?
Well, we need to have a website
Mhm.
that we can put the information up on and get the word around without falling afoul of Facebook.
Okay.
Exactly. I think there needs to be more networking between hobbyists and referrals. And like Ray said, somewhere you could go
To
for
say,
reliable sources and reliable information.
okay, so here's my two questions with that.
So, Kelly,
If
you need to get on it.
I know, so here's my two
But
questions. Here's my two questions. Hang on. I could very easily put that up within a week or two. It wouldn't be a full website like I want, like I'm working on,
Mhm.
but I could very easily create like a database resource type
Mhm.
part of the website that could be accessed through the website, even though the website wasn't done.
Mhm.
So I could do that if that's what we all agree and you guys in the audience agree needs
Mhm.
to happen.
we don't have a
So,
way to be able to communicate to people that it's there or to ask for people to send the information in
right.
because
So
basically we just have Facebook
Mhm.
and we can't talk about it on Facebook.
yeah, but
But
there
you
are
can
other,
do referrals.
you can do
You
referrals.
can do
There are
referrals.
there are other resources too.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm on every social media. I'm not very good at keeping up with them, but I'm on them. And that's what happens is if someone like me put this together and put it out there, and then someone like Zen Ginger
You just
puts it
take
out
somebody
there.
or I'll talk to so and so, blah blah blah.
Yep, yep,
I
yep,
had that's how I did when I had mine, when I had my babies that I was selling.
yep.
And just people knew and I had people messaging me
Right.
on
And I
Messenger
do.
or calling me. I have my phone number out so I mean because if you have a website that's not
Mhm.
Facebook, you
It's
can do
different.
that. It's
Yes.
different. It's just Facebook that
Well,
cracks.
I
You
was
can
just
say, you know, you need to talk to so and so,
yep,
tag them, and
yep.
yeah, stuff can work out.
I was also going to say, like, I know absolutely how to do the meta tags and all that stuff on a site.
Mhm,
I'm not as good with Facebook and such, but on a
mhm,
website, I can make it to where through Google, if you search for buy a seahorse, it would come up, within the first
mhm.
so many links. So I mean, I'm willing to take this on, but my two questions are what type, what would be what would be the best way to handle qualifying a breeder? So what I mean is, do we
Mhm,
approach this as like a referral based site like Airbnb or Uber or whatever, where as they sell seahorses and get good reviews from the
mhm,
people buying the seahorses, then they get a badge and then people know to trust them? Or is it that we, as the website owner, need to qualify them to begin with? You know what I mean? Like, what would be
mhm,
the criteria for that?
I think you could get into trouble that way. I think you have to
I know.
specify these are people that are selling, but we
mhm,
don't have like firsthand knowledge or something. Put the onus on them to find out in dealing with the person that they want to deal with to find out about them. And maybe we can put up tips on what to ask when you are talking to these people, what to
mhm,
ask, questions to ask to find out just how reliable a breeder they are.
mhm,
But don't um,
I
don't do,
understand with this site,
don't
we
do any
have to be very,
recommendations. Basically,
yeah,
mhm,
we have to be very, but that's what I'm saying, Ray, is if you look on like, okay, for instance, I'm trying to plan this trip to Italy and
mhm,
we're looking at Airbnb and the site very clearly says we're not responsible for anything, right?
yeah.
mhm,
But based on the reviews of other people that have stayed there, this person became a super host. So meaning like a million or 100 people have stayed there, liked it, and
mhm,
didn't get robbed or ganked or whatever you want to say. I mean, like, it was a good stay. It wasn't dirty. There weren't bugs. Da da da. So all I'm saying is, if
Well, the
we
thing
set it
I
up
have
like
against
that,
that, though, Kelly,
mm-hmm,
there's so many sites out there that have all sorts of great recommendations and everything, but they've been bought.
right, but I'd be setting this up and I wouldn't be bought. So it would literally be if you get 10, well, I guess you're right. Because if I said if you
If
get 10
somebody
good
sends in a
reviews, you
says
become
they,
this, they could just do fake reviews. I get
yeah,
it.
they may
Well,
not have
that's
even bought the darn things.
well, that's why I'm asking, guys. Like, what would you want in
The
buying
thing is,
seahorses?
I can't believe that there is that many
People
breeders to
selling? Yeah,
begin with in the
sure,
US. And
sure.
you're going to be dealing with US
Right,
breeders. So it's
right,
going to be hobbyists, I think, generally.
sure.
So I think, honestly, it
Just
wouldn't
having it.
be too hard to communicate with them before posting, before allowing them to list, and just kind of, what are you doing? What's your set? What do you have? Blah, blah, blah. How long have you been? Just basic stuff. And maybe have them send pictures of I don't think we're going to be overwhelmed with people selling
No.
seahorses. You know what
Right,
I'm saying?
right,
I
right.
don't think it's going to be that hard.
Okay. All right. I
On it,
just want to
I
be
don't.
careful.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I just think that there's not that many people out there that are successful enough even to be offering
Sure. And
seahorses like in on a big
but
scale like that.
but I think that's why this is so important is Empire of Dirt Aquatics Jeff asked, have you used sites like Get Gills or Aquabid to buy or sell? I personally have not.
I'm not familiar with
And I'm
those at
scared
all.
of sites like that because I don't know how to know whether to trust. So that's the only reason I'm even bringing up this conversation is if I put up this site, no, I'm not going to guarantee anything, obviously.
Mhm.
But I want people not to be afraid to go to it. And
Exactly.
I want people that are breeding to be able to go to it and honestly say, hey,
Here's who I am. Here's what I
I'm
got.
I'm an experienced seahorse keeper. I don't
Mhm.
care how old those seahorses are. I just need 2 seahorses, right? Or on the other end, hey, this is my first batch, but I've raised them to 4 inches or 3 inches or
So
whatever.
I think maybe a good thing would be to have people have to join the site
Sure,
to
sure.
be able to offer seahorses for sale, and then they put a profile,
Right,
like
because that's yeah, because
like about themselves, about what they're doing with the seahorses, their setup. Like you said, like, okay, my seahorses are having baby. I
yep.
don't know what to do. I need somebody to or I have juveniles that blah blah blah, so people can explain and show pictures and talk a little about themselves and their setups so that you can kind of get an idea and decide whether you want to go with that breeder for your
Well, and
sources.
I absolutely like Ray's idea of also having a, like not a checklist, but a
Mhm.
suggestions list of this is what you should ask or this is what you should look for. We need to get that up anyways, even without what we're
Mhm.
talking about now. And Empire
Too much
said,
maintenance putting up pictures and all the blog about each one that comes up. Like if you're the one that's doing it, then you've got enough on your palette already. And if you have to do this in addition to it, you're going to end up further behind on everything, including this.
But not necessarily, like, if
yeah,
you're used
why?
to using, like, social media, like a lot of people are now, it's so quick to make some pictures and write a little thing about yourself, you
But it's
know?
still, if she's
Or
using
hang
her
on,
website, so she would have to put it on her website, and that involves time on her behalf. And if you've got, 10 or 12 people in the US that are going to do this, then that's involving a fair bit of time. And I can't believe that she's got that much spare time to spare. Whereas
meaning
it'd be
me.
much easier if all she had to do, for instance, if she set up an email that was strictly used for nothing else, so that if worse come to worse, she could shut down that email if somebody became a problem. But an email specifically tailored for people on whatever social media site they're using to get the
Mhm.
word out, have them send the email to her with the name and basic specifics of what they have to offer. She can put that up there, and if there's uh, a list of the questions and that if someone's wanting to buy, can query
Excuse
to
me.
prospective breeder
Mhm.
and find out the information
See,
for themselves.
time out, Ray, because what you're talking about sounds like a lot more work for me.
So
I
Mhm.
don't want to
he,
be the in between man. I want to put up the site. Somebody can, and I
that's
know
what
what
I
you're
mean.
saying.
All you have to do is put the list up there, and it's up and done. And it's there for anybody that gets their name put up there as a breeder. It's
Mhm.
there for all of them. You don't have to put it up on with each individual name. You just put that up, the questions up at the start, then the list of the names and the provinces wherever the states that they're at, and that's it.
I get what you're saying, and that might be easier. I'll look at it, guys. I'll look at what
Mhm.
I can accomplish you know, in a short amount of time and do what I can, and then it'll be up to us to make it work, right? And say this doesn't work for me, this does. You know,
Yeah.
we can play with
Yeah.
it.
If
I
somebody does
just don't
contact,
think there's going to be so many that it's overwhelming. I really don't.
Right, right.
I
but if
really
somebody
don't.
contacts the breeder can always send them pictures via their choice of connection, but it wouldn't have to go through your website.
Mhm.
Right. I get what you're saying, and I'll look at both ways and see which works better. And Empire said some sites for home breeders offer protection on both sides, some offer nothing. And so that's the kind of thing where like I really want to be able to say, hey, they at least answered these questions, right? And that's why I like the review thing. I know people can cheat it. I know they can, but maybe figuring out the criteria for submitting a review. I don't know. I'm putting it out there because I need it, right? So I want to provide it because I wish it was there. And I think all of us do as the breeders dwindle and become less and less. So any
You need to
thoughts
check
you could
out the legal aspects of doing that too.
right. Well, I mean, if you put a disclaimer, this is on you, then I'm pretty sure you're covered. Am I wrong?
Uh, it possibly. I'm just looking back a few years ago to when we were principally on forums,
Mm-hmm.
and certain companies that put up disclaimers and then got taken to court. Now, mind you, that they got taken to court by other companies,
Ah,
and rather than an individual. But the thing is, the legal aspect was there, and that
right.
an individual could have taken them. It's just that it was another company that did
Well,
take.
I would probably when I set up the site to begin with years ago and never completed it, one of the first things I had to do is get like SSL certified first of all for the site, get protection for the site, and then also I had to like to be on Facebook at all, you have to like have a policy in place and all this stuff. So I agree, Ray. I will look at it. But that's not my major concern. My major concern is making sure that good breeders
Mhm.
can get their information out there, or people who don't like again who don't want fry, and that's
Yeah.
not a guarantee in any way. Like there's no guarantee that if I get fry, and then they could even set their own policy parameters, meaning, you
Mhm.
know, do you refund if they all arrive dead, right?
Mhm.
Well, then the person buying can make that option. Do I want to spend $100 and might get nothing? That's on me, right?
Mhm.
I'll look into it, guys. I will look into it.
Could also put
And
up a list for people that have fry and don't want them,
yeah,
so that people that do want them can connect, and somebody just
Mhm.
pays the shipping, and like I
Yeah,
ship
they might
fry.
have a chance.
yeah,
I ship fry very easily just by putting them in plastic juice jars
Mhm.
and filling up completely with water with no air gaps at all, and ship them overnight. And
Mhm.
there's no problem. They don't need an air gap in there. And if you have air in the container, they can get sloshed around a lot more, and damage can
right.
happen.
Mhm.
But if you fill it totally to the top, then
Then
they have
just
no problem.
overnight them. So it's a quick
Believe you
trip.
me, Ray.
Mhm.
Believe you me that if I get this accomplished, I'm coming to you because we'll also, in addition to the list and the
Mhm.
disclaimer and all this, we're
Mhm.
also going to have what you should ask a breeder and how
Yeah.
to ship. We're going to have a how to ship,
Yeah.
fry,
There's
regular
some
seahorses,
ginger.
all that. Zen
Made
Ginger's
it.
here. We were all
Good
talking
water
about you, Zen.
changes, she said.
No worries, we get it.
Get
But
that. That's my
You better
Wednesday.
get your priorities straight here. Water changes. I mean,
yeah, Wine
let's face
Wednesday is
it,
a priority. Good
what's
for
more
Uh,
you,
important,
Zen,
eh?
because Zen, good for you because I put mine off. Mine are swimming in some filth and I got to do the water change afterwards. And we all know how my water changes go after Wine Wednesday. I lose rocks, you know. Anyways.
That's why I do
um
mine very early in the morning.
See, I need to get on a better schedule. And Ray, I just have to point out, I freaking love the way you say, eh? Say it again.
Yeah.
What was that?
Eh?
I love the way you say, eh? It's a Canada thing. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't remember saying anything like that.
The Canadian pronunciation. Yeah. Scott watches a guy that
What was
does
it about?
Volkswagen work, like on
Wait, did you?
cars that's from Canada, and I
Yeah.
always dig on his pronunciations and things.
Did you
Yeah.
just hear Ray say a boot? A boot?
Yes, that's it. That's the one. That's the
I'm
yeah.
not mocking you, Ray. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
absolutely.
No, and you said you could do this and that and the other, eh? Like just how you guys say, eh?
Yeah,
I just love it.
yeah.
I really love it. Anyways,
I
okay,
do too.
back to business, guys.
Right
Zen, what
there,
you
old
missed?
school.
No, it's Canada. It's a Canadian thing.
Yes, it is.
It is. But and I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
So Zen, what we were talking about is just the fact that you need to get your seahorses like now. No, I'm
Because
kidding.
they're
But
running out. They're hard to get.
we're talking about the fact that we don't know why, but breeders seem to be dwindling. And we were talking about putting together a site that breeders, home breeders, right?
Hobbyists, yeah.
Hobbyist breeders can put their information up, kind of describe the situation, right?
Mhm.
Basically saying it's the first batch, or it's I've been doing this for years,
Mhm.
or I've got fry. There's no promises, but if you want them, or whatever. Because you can't do it on Facebook and other sites. Even though I haven't finished the Seahorse Whisperer site, and it seems like it never will be finished. I hope I want to, guys. Can't even fix the fire alarm. I'm trying. I'm trying. But I could absolutely put something like that up. But we were just talking about what disclaimers I would need to put up. What kind of questions I would need to ask of the breeders. Like, is there a criteria for them to join or put their information out there? Should we do a review system? I really like the review system, but as Ray pointed out, that can be faked, right? You can easily go and put up fake reviews, different emails. I know all that can be done.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out how to protect us, but also figure out how to put the word out. Because as our major commercial breeders dwindle, and I hope that the gentleman who was, I can't remember his name. Do you guys remember the guy's name who said he was going into commercial breeding? Steven, I think. I'm so bad with names, you guys. I'm sorry. I know he joined the group.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. Wasn't he from Southern California though?
I feel like it was.
I want to say, but I never knew who he was. He called himself Seahorse breeder or something like that.
Okay.
Right?
So and Empire, please put up Vivi profile. For sure. If you're talking about like an example to copy. And or if this is already out there, guys, hey, save me the work. Just let's talk about where it is, if it should be trusted, because that's the other thing that Ray pointed out is, this channel isn't huge, right? So I put up this resource.
Shyla said Sawyer. Yes.
Thank you, Shyla.
Right.
Yes, Sawyer. So we do still have contact with Sawyer. Sorry, I forgot your name. I'm so bad with names. But like people like that might end up with their own websites and, doing it on their own. And that's great. But in the meantime, as he grows, we could be helping him. So, yeah. And Zen, you said random people, it's going down the tubes. That's the point. I think he was saying it just for like an example.
Vivi, I think. Somebody asked,
Yeah.
do you have a link to a Vivi profile? They shut down. I lost my link. So
right. So I think he was just saying the example of the site, because as I was saying to begin with, even if I can't finish the whole site, I could finish this portion and allow people to get to it, right? Yeah. But it's also about, it'll only work if we work it, right? So if I put it up, what I would do is I would first have people like Ray and Holly and Zen Ginger and you guys come in and be like, I don't like this at all. I do like this. This is what we need to change. Get it to a point where everybody's like, at least, okay, this works. And then we got to spread the word together, right? Like, if
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows about it, nobody's going to put their stuff on it. So I
Yeah.
will need your help, absolutely. And I just, even in creating it, I want to make sure I'm doing what everybody wants. Ray wants just a listing, like a breeder or a person with fry or a person that wanted to give away their seahorses or sell their seahorses because they're moving, whatever, could contact me, and I would do the criteria, and then I would add their name to the list. To me, that sounds like more work. I don't want to be the person that has to, interchange with them. Whereas I liked the idea of having like an Airbnb where they get a badge if so many people said they did good. However, as Ray pointed out, people can fake that. Holly, what was your idea? You said something in between.
I don't think there's that many people out there breeding. I think a little screening process would work, and I wouldn't mind being part of it to where you actually talk to the person, on the phone or I mean, when I was shipping seahorses, I talked to people on the phone and said, "Here's oh Kelly."
Sorry.
Sorry.
Kicked
and
over the
and
line.
and said, here's what I have, here's what I'm willing to do, blah blah blah. Tell me a little bit about your setup. I was
Well, yeah,
not
we would.
having people beating down my door for seahorses. I
Right.
don't think there's so many people breeding in the US that we're going to be overwhelmed
So
with
I'm not
people
worried
offering
about being overwhelmed.
seahorses. So I wouldn't mind having a process where, like, hey, message us your phone number, your whatever, so we can talk to you a little bit
So
and
all I'm
see
saying, I get
what.
it. I get it. The only thing I'm saying is I think it would probably, just knowing Kelly, it
Mhm.
would probably work out better if that process was between buyer and seller and not Kelly. Right? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
so not that I qualify them, but maybe we put up, as Ray said, a very clear document saying
Mhm.
this is what you should ask when you do talk to a breeder. And
Mhm.
then for the breeders, this is what you need to provide when someone calls you. And then literally just a listing
Mhm.
of breeders, what they have, why they're doing it, and their phone number or whatever.
Mhm.
Maybe we go that route. And Fish
Mhm.
Fam Links, thanks for calling me out on the low viewership. But I would say, surprisingly enough, you wouldn't believe how many people watch these later,
Later.
which
Yeah.
is which is crazy to me. Like, I feel like we just ramble and have a good time, and I'm okay with only 10 people because
Mhm.
I'm not in this to make money. I'm in this to share and be a
Mhm.
community and help people with seahorses, right? And yeah, it does take all of you sharing to grow it, but sometimes I get rambly. I know that.
Mhm.
If people want to watch later or don't want to watch it all, I'm okay with that. I'm still doing it because I love it. Love seahorses, love you guys, and that's it. So stop calling me out, fish family. but but yeah, we don't have many people join live. You're right. But the people that do count and matter, and I'm
Mhm.
here for you, right? Anyways, so any ideas you have, think it over. It doesn't have to be decided today. I can start working on it in general and
Mhm.
then come back next week and say, this is what I've found out so far. This is what I think so far. And we can kind of go from there. And you guys I just want to hear from you guys what you would want from it,
Mhm.
because I can't guarantee people even if I qualify them. It's not me
No,
selling the
you can't.
seahorses. So, um, but I think we need it because as this discussion started, Alyssa's dying off or taking a break, excuse me.
Yeah,
Ocean Rider
just
has
not
all of
offering.
their. Holly had heard that Ocean Rider was cutting back. I don't know.
Mhm.
But all of their seahorses are on sale. That could be just a website gimmick. I think they've always been on sale. So it could be
Or it may
nothing.
have been that somebody posted that during the winter time when they don't ship,
There
because
you
they don't
go.
ship during winter. So,
Right.
but I just read somewhere they weren't available from them. And that was winter. I mean, we had an ice storm last weekend. So winter wasn't that far away for us here.
I've seen
Sure.
times where they had a lot of currently not available messages for a lot of them up there, but I've never seen
Uh,
anything to give me the indication that they're totally getting out of it.
Right.
When
yeah.
they say are currently not available, then it means that maybe they've had some problems, and so
Sure.
they've got
Or
more
they just
coming
don't
on. But
have any of
the
that.
problems mean there's a gap in the stream there for a little bit.
Yep. And that happens.
I haven't
Um,
looked at all on their website for a long time. I just saw that somebody said that in a post.
sure. So what I'm
And
going to
that
do,
was been like a couple months back, I want to say. Like,
sure. So we
so.
won't be that worried. But what I'm going to do is I am going to put together like what we want from this, like a listing of what we want from this, what we're going to include, etc., and make a post of it. I'll put it on Facebook and on YouTube, and then you guys can comment and share. Well, we would want this more, or etc. We can just discuss it further when we're not live, because I do know a lot of people watch this later. And so we want your input too. We want to make it something that can help local breeders and people looking for seahorses, because let's deepen the discussion just a little bit and talk about I think someone said, let's see, the first comment that I saw was, I know that Alyssa got juvenile erectus from another breeder. I know someone who bought them and says they're not really eating frozen mysis. She is feeding live copepods. That's very scary to me. And then also, Holly has seen a lot of posts where people are buying from pet stores. And it used to be like back when Dan and Ray and Cheryl started with seahorses, buying from a pet store was really dangerous because they were typically wild caught. I can tell you from my own personal experience that the stores around me started buying from me because they wanted to sell captive bred. I know Holly had the same experience. I think Vincent had the same. Many people have had that experience where they're willing to buy from local breeders to sell captive bred. But if all the local breeders aren't selling anymore, and neither are the commercial, because that's the other caveat, is that there was a case where, I hate to even say this live, I probably shouldn't. I won't name the store, I won't name the breeder, but there was a breeder selling seahorses, and I had my local store. And somehow, some way, it was cheaper to buy from the local store. And I absolutely knew for a fact from talking to both of them that it was coming from the breeder. So the breeder was sending to the store wholesale, right? And they were just selling for cheaper than the breeder was selling. And I'm a cheapo. So I bought from the store. And actually, to be completely honest, 100% here, that was the case where it was the hybrids, and I ended up with seahorses with ammonia poisoning because the store opened the bag, took out what they bought for their tanks, and then reclosed the bag. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
don't ever do that.
yeah.
And then I had to drive an hour home. The seahorses lived. It was a happy ending, but I'm just saying, I'm rambling. Back to the point was that a lot of times these stores are buying wholesale from breeders, commercial breeders, and then of course you're getting captive bred and you're getting the quality stock, and just like you would buy from the breeder. So it wasn't really a problem recently. Like, it felt like it was getting a lot better, but now if the breeders aren't selling wholesale to the stores, where are they getting the seahorses? That's my question. That should be your first question when you go to a store to buy seahorses. But it's just
Well, and
scary.
the
So I
thing
think we need
too,
to
I
rise up the
saw
local breeders.
on one of my seahorse groups recently, Somebody was talking about finding them in a local fish store for $60. And then somebody responded that, well, they have to be wild caught because captive bred are going for $170 now.
Right.
Well, the thing though, that's kind of, you have to keep in mind, because here where I live, when I sold my captive bred seahorses to a local fish store, I got $30 for each one. And they were selling them for $60 because that was all they could get for them. So there's not a demand for seahorses in the market where I live. They're not a common thing. So I think the price is not necessarily, depending on where you live, reflective of whether they're captive or wild caught. Because if you're like me and live far inland where they're not, or not even saltwater is a popular hobby where I live, the local fish store is going to sell them for what they can get, not necessarily what they're worth for people buying them, to be shipped. So I
Okay.
think that's something to keep in mind too. Because I understand the person's point on the post that it can't possibly be captive bred because they're selling for $170.
Right.
But I could not sell mine to a local fish store for $170 because they don't have any buyers for $170.
But
They're like,
which,
we can get $60 for a seahorse, so we'll give
right,
you 30. It took them a month to sell them
right. In
at
your area, to be fair,
my
in your
area.
area,
I think
because
that
it's different in
thing
mine.
people need to keep in mind is where you live
Sure.
and if they're a thing or not. Because if seahorses, if you live, for instance, on the East Coast and you're not far from the coast and there's a lot of people in the saltwater hobby,
Right.
I think the going rate's probably a lot higher than it is for somebody like me who lives out in the boonies where people don't even keep saltwater fish.
Well, and that's another great point for why we need what we're talking about in this site, is
Mhm.
that I feel that anybody that takes the time to raise seahorses damn well better get more than $30. I mean, and I know I was in the same spot,
Mhm.
Holly, where the stores will only
But
pay so much wholesale. Right.
if you don't sell them or they're going to die.
Right.
If you don't
Well,
have the space, and you have
right.
you're trying to do the best for
I'm not
them.
right. I'm not
So,
judging you. I did the same thing. I sold to
yeah,
stores.
so
I sold them for not what they're worth.
so
But
it
if
could be
anybody's,
that too.
I agree with you 100%. I'm merely saying this is another point to why
We
we
need
need a place for
networking, I think. Yeah.
hobbyist breeder. Yeah, networking. Great way to put it. Holly will be right back. Ray, you said there's a lot of offshore producers that supply not wild caught but pen raised, but trained
Yeah,
to eat
that's
frozen myself.
been going on for a long time. They raise them in large cement vats, and actually, Dan at times many years ago had bought some stock from one that he considered good. It ended up though that particular company, they got so much in demand, uh, they were having trouble supplying um, sufficient stock in the quality that they'd been producing.
Sure,
They
they
started
started
cutting
trying to
corners.
produce
They
more.
started selling them off at an earlier age, and they
Yep,
just blew the whole thing.
right.
The success
Unfortunately,
went to
that's
their
what
head.
usually happens.
But the
Um,
thing is, um, it is possible to get access to this kind of thing. You're going to get them a lot cheaper than you're going to get these other things. But the thing is, uh, if you don't have a lot of money, sometimes that's the option to take the risk on getting these. And then, especially if what to do with these when you get them, how to look after them, and to give you the best chance of success with those ones, then sometimes that's going to be the better option than spending $450 or whatever.
So see, herein lies the tumble that I go through. I say, oh, it would be really easy to just put up a database where, we list local breeders. What's the criteria, et cetera. But then we go into, but we also need to make sure there's a list of what you should ask the breeder. And we need to provide something to help breeders ship. And we need to provide that, how to take care of them. And then I am trying to do the whole website again. I'm going to have to do it in steps, guys, and you're going to have to help me along the way because I just can't do it all in one night, right? Or even a week. It's a process. As you see, there's just so much information that can and should be provided that I don't want to half butt it, if that makes sense. And Zen said, I know that Biota Group was selling seahorses, not cheap, but it appears they're available still. A medium yellow pair is captive bred erectus for $450, and medium black is $185. Thoughts? First thought is, if you can buy from a place like Biota, abso-freaking-lutely, period, right? Again, the reason I want to put this type of resource up for breeders and for people is so that we can network and help each other. But if you're a first-time seahorse keeper and you want the assurances of you're not going to have as, just the assurances, I'll leave it there, then buying from someone like Ocean Rider or, Biota is your best bet. If you have the money and you can do it and you're willing to, that's your best bet. As Ray said, if you can't afford it, you're not going wrong with a local breeder. It's just that you might need to come back to us and get some help with whatever. There's so many things. Like if they're not wild caught but pen raised, then what do you need to do? There's just so many steps. Going with pure captive bred that are clean from someone like Biota or Ocean Rider is the safest bet. Now, but again, I was a local breeder. You could trust my seahorses. I never had a seahorse die. Felicia McCall. Wait, let me backtrack. I've had a seahorse die. I haven't ever shipped seahorses and have them have a problem immediately. Let's put it that way. Felicia McCauley, who works for Biota, actually, and who is huge in the seahorse world. If you don't know her name, you should. She's written many articles and she's awesome. But when she got out of seahorses for a minute, because she had kids and this and that, her first pair of seahorses were mine. They were one out of my first batch that I raised to adulthood, and I sent her to for her birthday, and she bred them and did all sorts of things with them, and it was great. So I'm just saying, what I'm saying is that I'm not saying that you shouldn't trust local breeders. I just want to figure out how to make sure no spammers get into the site and say, whatever, and take your money. And also how to make sure that people are honest, meaning this is my first batch. You're taking a risk, but they're very healthy. They're 4 months old. They're eating mysids, frozen mysis, da 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 da. So that's that. Now on to
like
the black.
I said, though, I think that's easy enough because I don't think there's that many. I think the ones that won't talk to you are spammers.
Gotcha.
Right. If you can have a conversation with somebody and find out, it's not that hard. I don't think there's that many. I don't think we're going to have like 100 breeders come into us.
No, but I think
listed on this site. I think there'll maybe be 5 or 10. Honestly.
And that might be enough to help a lot of people.
And that's enough. And if somebody's willing to talk to you on the phone for a few minutes and say, I live in Indiana. I've got seahorses having
Well, and again, I want to make it more than that.
You
I'm not talking about a preferred list of breeders. I'm saying I want it to be not a forum, but somewhere where someone can say, I've got fry
Just a
that I
source.
can't raise.
Contact this person
Right.
and
I've
yeah.
got fry. I can ship them to you for just the shipping cost or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
whatnot, to where people can get what they need from each other. Just sharing, right?
Yeah.
But let's dive into the second part of the question that Ray kind of handled in the comments. Would you pay more for the yellow? Ray,
Pay more for what?
you answered in the
My
comments,
color.
but I want you to talk about it live. She's saying that Biota is selling a medium yellow pair for $450 and a medium black pair for $185. What
Just,
are your
now,
thoughts?
well, I'd have bought the black, but she said that's just for an individual. That's not a pair.
Oh, gotcha. So it would still be like 300, but you're still saving. Well, 340? I don't know. Anyways,
370,
370. So you're only saving $60. Okay, 70
80,
bucks. God, I
$80.
can't add today. I can't do
Oh,
math.
$370 for a pair of black.
Okay.
Black was singular. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. And honestly, black is cool. My seahorses are very rarely black. Mine
They
were
don't
only
stay black.
mine were only black when they were juveniles for a short time because they were trying to match the equipment in the tank.
But let me ask you guys this though, because Biota and places like that have people like Felicia.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what the
Yeah.
species is. Are they the same species?
Are they
Does it
erect?
say? Right. Are they all erectus? Because that
Mm-hmm.
matters. And like
It
that's
can
just
always
interesting to me
change
because
color.
because because though they would know how to influence color. So
Well,
why
like
would they
Chris
keep some
Carey
black?
has talked about before, like there's ways to do that, but there's also ways to influence it by what's in your tank and where the seahorses like to be. Like my seahorses, I know, they change from time to time, and a lot of what influences their changes, what I figured out is where they want to be, what they like to hang out with in the tank. So there's ways to influence them to be certain colors, but my seahorses were most colorful when they were juveniles. They liked to practice a lot. They would try to blend in with different things that I had in my tank like all the time. So I had black and silver seahorses, which were one of my favorite color
Mm-hmm.
combinations, but they didn't stay black and silver because eventually they didn't want to match the return nozzles and the airlines anymore.
Yep.
They took on other pursuits. I didn't change the tank to
Right.
influence their color. They chose what they wanted to be in the end.
And I will
And
say that it. Go ahead. Sorry.
and so I know that like Ocean Rider sells the really bright seahorses like we talked about. And they say, well, if you feed them this special food, which I believe does influence color. I think there's
Absolutely.
things, like I said, that influence color,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to guarantee the color. And I
It's going to be
remember
what they want to
Miss
be.
Terry talking about he was experimenting with selective breeding for color. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going on. I think that can be a part, but it's not a guarantee at this point that they're going to stay the color that they are
And
when.
that, and Holly, and I agree with you 100%. And all I was saying is, it's interesting to me that Biota is selling both. Like, if they
Mhm.
know how to influence color, maybe it's just because some people want black seahorses or a cheaper option and they don't have to spend the money to influence the color, maybe feeding special foods or whatnot. So that was just an interesting point to me.
And they look cool black. That was one of my favorite color phases that mine went through. When I had a few that were black and silver, that was really an outstanding color to see. But it was honestly one of the colors that didn't last long in their
right. I
progression.
was gonna say, in my experience, everyone has a different one, but the only seahorses that I didn't see maintain a typically silver, say rock colored, not rock colored, silver than rock colored.
Silver, like saddling look that they get? Or is that what you're
yeah,
talking
but no, I mean, like,
or all over silver?
I mean, silver's not the right color. White's not the right color.
Right.
Cream's not the right color. I don't know how to describe it. I'll try to post a picture when I'm done. But most of my seahorses, in trying to blend into their environment, turned the color of, say, if you mixed white with rock,
like have a,
with
yes.
light colored rock. Okay,
mine are like that a lot.
So that seems to be their main. That's their true color, but then their I can't say the word right, but whatever. I have a whole video on how they change color.
Chromophores, yeah.
But they're mainly this, not dull. It's very pretty, but whatever color. And then they are influenced by their environment. Absolutely. Here comes Chris Carey to talk about color.
Yay.
We got Chris Carey here. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys.
It always
Hi,
takes him a
minute. Hi.
I guess we're looking at a ceiling.
Yeah.
How's everyone doing?
Hey, did you ever have success with your selective breeding for color?
Yeah, I had heaps of success. Basically, I was able to get results much earlier, like seahorses developing color earlier than their I guess regular siblings, or regular seahorses of the same species, and they were developing colors much more intense, much earlier, and only developing the one main type of color, as per the breeding program.
So, did they continue to keep the color after they were sold? We probably couldn't know that, but did they continue to keep the color as they aged?
Yeah, like they were like the one I had the most success with, that I kind of worked on for the longest, was the yellow breeding program, and I just had yellow seahorses, and that was regardless of whatever was in their tank, so it wasn't really dependent on colors of decorations or backgrounds, or it didn't matter what sort of tank you put them in, they would just be yellow.
It would keep that color. That's
so
cool.
we know you're not going to share the secrets. You can't, but can you at least tell us what the, like, I know selective breeding has to do with multiple factors, and like we could take a deep dive. We're not going to tonight because he can't share the secrets anyways. But I know it takes, taking the best of certain batches and breeding them and etc. Genetics is one thing. Food, what you feed them, is another. What would you say is the main thing that influences a seahorse keeping its color? Would it be feeding? Would it be just buying from someone that has done a program like you've done and can't guarantee, but says these seahorses should keep their color? Or what would you say the main, because we were talking earlier, I don't know if you were here, but we were talking earlier about how Ocean Rider suggests if you want them to keep their color, buy our food, these live red mysids. They're live and they're red, and they have the xanthans, or however you say the word, etc. And so that's the key. What would you say?
Well, I would say, based on my experience, like I've actually met people from Ocean Rider, some of the owners.
Sure.
And I've talked to them in depth about their food and everything. So I think food definitely is one factor. Their food is how they achieve their results. But based on my experiences, I would say that particular species are more prone to, showing bright colours or bright variation in, their appearance. So species is definitely a big factor. Some species are more prone to showing, bright, vivid sort of coloration than others. You can achieve similar results through selective breeding programs. I've done that in the past, so I know that definitely works. Like going back species in Australia that's generally always wild, Subelongatus come in the most, amazing array of colours, and it's really, really funny. Like the shops or even the collectors, some of them actually charge based on the coloration of the seahorses. So, if they pick out like a fluoro orange seahorse that's, really, really bright and vivid, they'll actually charge more for that particular seahorse.
Absolutely.
Which I've actually criticized them for in the past, because, you could put that seahorse in a different tank and it might just turn, really, really dark brown or purple, or, it'll change color to suit its environment. Some seahorses do tend to, be more colorful overall, and tend to, be just prone to being more colorful than other seahorses. But I would never advocate for selling a seahorse based purely on its coloration, especially if it's a wild caught specimen, because, just because it's bright in the tank that they've put it in, or it was bright when it was collected, doesn't mean it's going to stay bright in someone else's tank or setup.
Absolutely. I'm gonna veer left real quick and say, Empire said Zen Ginger, it would be great if Fish Fam Link had a hobbyist breeder sales section. Cough, cough. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fish Fam Links. I would be so okay with just helping you set it up and doing the background stuff, because I don't have good follow through. So if you decide to do something like that, I'm right here. I'm with you. I will help you. Back to the point. Sorry, Chris, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're right. So yeah, like just from my experience, like some seahorses do have that tendency to be more colorful, or to show their color through their chromatophores either better or faster or more vividly than other species. Some species are subdued in their coloration. An example of a species that comes to mind that's a bit more subdued is like Hippocampus cooter that was at Seahorse World, or Hippocampus that's got a lot of range. So Briley, who has been on here in the past, and has kept seahorses for quite a while. She's not keeping them currently, but she had Barbari that she had for a long period of time, and she had like photos of the same seahorses that were like, I don't know, probably 7 to 10 different colors throughout their life. Just based on the colorations in her tank, or just at different stages of their life, and just showing off all these different colors. And they're the exact same seahorses, because she had like, I don't know if it was 3 or 5 seahorses or however many she had, but they were the same seahorses in her tank that she had for years. But they showed incredible range. At certain times they were white, at certain times they were black. They showed brown, they showed purple, they showed red, yellow. Like they were just so many different colors, and they were the exact same seahorses. They just shown different colors, whether they were reacting to, corals and things, and decorations and different lighting and stuff in her tank over that time period. I think it's just a really interesting example of how, it's not just, purely genetics or this seahorse being prone to being this color or that color. A lot of it can come down to whatever you're doing in your tank with the decor or whatever they're trying to match or mimic.
Absolutely, and you made a great
For
point.
me, sometimes
hang on.
whatever they choose. I mean,
Yep.
Sadie
Yep.
has been so many different colors in her lifetime, and even from day to day, it's almost like, was she feel like dressing like that?
Well, and I was going to say that absolutely, and we'll go back to the fundamentals here. It's really about how you care for your tank. If you set up properly, if you make sure their water stays where it needs to be, then they can, have their moods or have their color changes. Whereas if you're not taking care of the tank, they are going to go really, really downhill and not be a pretty color. And I would say also, I only, in the time of keeping seahorses, I had one seahorse that never changed. And he was a black erectus. Every picture I took of him, people said, "How did you get a purple seahorse?" Because somehow under the lighting, he always looked purple. He had like a purple tint to his black.
I had
He
one
was
like that years ago.
gorgeous. The only time he ever changed color was when he was mating, and he would just lose color. Like he didn't turn a different color; he would just lose color, and look silver or I don't know, not white, but like gray, I guess. I don't know. But
would lighten.
He was my favorite seahorse out of all the species. Well, I shouldn't say out of all the species. Out of all the erectus I've kept, he was my favorite. Not the bright yellow ones, not the, pale yellow one. It was that black one that looked purple that everyone was like, "Where the hell did you get a purple seahorse?" And he just got so big and strong, and he was amazing. Sometimes I think going back to the basics and just letting them be themselves is like the thing, right? I don't know. Chris, thoughts? Chris
Yeah,
is
definitely. Like, yeah, go back to basics and just try and influence your own seahorses over time based on messing with the decor of the tank or the lighting, or put up a new background so there's a new base color there for them to try and mimic or whatever. Just a quick heads up, like if my voice is a little bit crackly or whatever, I've been sick all week, so that's actually why I'm not at work right now, and that's why I'm able to join. But means that I get to see you guys, and talk seahorse stuff, so that's always good.
And we love that you're here, but Holly did mention that you weren't feeling well. I'm so sorry. And just so that everybody can be mad at Ray, he put in our personal, I'm tattling on you, Ray. He put in our personal chat, "Good thing women don't have the capability to change with mood." What do you mean, Ray?
I don't know. I can change
How many
color.
moods do you go through in a day?
I can change color with mood. You better believe it.
Yep. Cheers to that.
Is red a color?
Red is a color. Hi, Dixon Designs. Nice to see you lurking. And let's see. The one I posted. Okay, so Zen, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up. All right, let me see if I can. I don't know if I can try to open this or not. I don't know how to copy and paste from here. Let me see if I can open this to show what you're talking about. Somebody else talk about something while I'm trying to do this.
You're looking for that,
Yeah.
I had an interesting note because you were talking about your dark seahorse that never really changed color other than going from the purplish to black to maybe lighter in color. Dandy is like that. He has always been a very dark colored seahorse. And when he's flirting or certain times, depending on his mood, he'll flush like to a lighter brown color, but he still has very beautiful markings like a zebra.
Saddles, yeah.
He's striped. He's all striped. He has no saddling at all. He's all striped.
Oh.
And it was interesting because I had a friend's teenage daughter came over last weekend to meet the seahorses and feed them. And that was one of the first things she said when, she sat by that tank and was getting ready to feed those seahorses, is looking at Dandy. She says, "Oh, I love his stripes
Mm-hmm.
like a zebra."
Yep.
And it's interesting because my seahorses that change color more are the females, and they don't have the stripes that my male seahorses do. And I
Hmm.
don't know if that's exclusive to my seahorses based on their breeding and what their parental lines are like. But in my seahorses, the females seem to have a wider range of color changes. They have more saddling, but more solid colors that change frequently. Whereas the few males that I've had are more striped.
Do
They
you
have
know?
stripes and they'll change. Like I've had ones that are yellower than others and paler and more likely to change color than Dandy, who doesn't really change much color. Like I said, he's a narrow range of dark to a light brown. He'll never be like bright yellow or anything like that. I've had some males that would be sometimes a brighter yellow, but they have always had more stripes or been striped looking compared to the females.
Hmm.
And I don't know because these are the only ones I've had for Erectus, if that's common or if that's just in their genes to be that way.
So we're gonna ask Chris to answer that in a second. Well, his thoughts. But I would actually say the exact opposite. In my case, my females have always been more solid and not changed dramatic colors, whereas my males go crazy. Hey, Ray, I know you got to go, but real quick, I wanted you to answer. You said there's no guarantee that saddle marks will stay. I've seen colors change. I've
I've
seen,
had them. I've had them that the
Same here.
ones that I raised that had saddle and they disappeared after I sold them.
Yes.
you're
Same here.
kidding.
Same
All right,
here. I
Yeah,
have
Ray,
right
females
around
that
here.
I
I'm
can't
having problems.
identify anymore because of that. I have trouble figuring out who's who because the ones with the really distinct saddling that I remembered them by their saddle markings don't have them anymore.
okay, so Ray, I know you got to go take care of your dog. Feel free, but that's interesting. I've never seen it. He had to go. But I've never
I have
seen. That's
my
crazy.
females. I have two because I don't have that many left. Remember, in my tiki tank, I've got 3 females and 1 male. And I had 2 females that are basically the same shape and size that I used to tell apart by their markings.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have them anymore. So, or they're not as prominent. So now I have a hard time telling those two apart
Gotcha. Okay, real
because
quick, I'm gonna.
I recognize one by her saddle marking shapes, and now they kind of both don't have them. So I'm like, are you princess or are you Sunny?
Right.
I don't know
They
who's it.
like to change, y'all. They like to change. Real
Yeah.
quick, I'm gonna share the link that Zen Ginger shared because this is interesting to me. So, can you guys see?
Yeah.
So, this is supposed to be a black seahorse? I'm confused.
Well, I'd have to see it bigger. Let me enlarge it on my screen because I can't see and read
I
it.
don't know if I can.
I got it bigger on my screen.
Well, there now it's bigger for everyone, but that does not look like a black seahorse to me. I'm confused.
No, and it's not very big. Okay, blah blah blah.
I mean,
Well,
these are different pictures, I think, of different seahorses.
all I see so far, I don't see black. I see saddled erectus seahorse. Where does it say that they're black? Colored
Well, I'm just
seahorses
going by the fact
naturally
that,
vary in color. They're more likely to display bright colors. Blah blah blah.
right, and great points. Again, Felicia works there. But
Here,
I'm just
oh, I
saying,
see there's a selection. Okay, so when you scroll down, it says size medium, black, natural.
gotcha.
It
So we're
says
not seeing the
black,
actual
black,
color.
natural.
Okay. So we're
So
not,
that means they're gonna show up either black or natural. I
got it.
don't think they're selling them as a color in that phase. Like if you click on the arrow though, what is the choice? Like when you go down, like when it sees medium, black, natural, what else are the choices?
Small black natural, medium yellow pear. And I get it now because I was going to say this is not the same seahorse, right? I mean,
No,
if
they're
you look,
showing
oh
different
shit,
seahorses.
sorry.
Well, and even the description was saying that you're not going to get them that color. Their color depends. It says it's vary in color based on diets, environment, and genetics, similar to chameleons. Blah blah
See,
blah.
this little guy's is gorgeous to me. I love the
Mhm.
saddling. When we say saddle, by the way, for anyone
That's
new,
that.
if
Mm-hmm.
you can see my little arrow, if not, I'm talking about the white splotches that come
Yeah.
from the back of the seahorse down towards the seahorse. That's saddling.
And they
This,
change too, because mine, I noticed the saddling even will get brighter or dimmer, like I said, even to the point where it fades altogether, like Ray was saying.
but look closer, like on this seahorse, is that
Mhm.
coloring or is that algae? I wonder. They do
Well,
grow
I
algae.
see both. I see
Yeah.
both, but the whitish, I would say that's the saddling pattern, and you
Yes.
see it in multiple locations on this particular seahorse. You could see it has it throughout. But even that, like I said, it doesn't necessarily stay. And one thing too, like if they are starting to grow algae, which my seahorses do,
Mm-hmm.
so the saddling might not be as prominent because the algae is coating the seahorse
Right.
and influences the color also. And they do change color to match the algae in their tank
Yep.
and
Yep.
things
I've
too.
had green seahorses.
Maybe even on their own body. Like Sadie's
Right.
head's kind of green right now because she's been liking hanging out in the top of the tank near the lights lately. So she's turning
Yep.
greener.
Yep.
But
Uh,
still, there is, I would say you can't count seahorses, at least the erect ones I keep, staying the same color always. They will change. If
what I love, and this picture doesn't capture, but you can see a little bit of it right here.
Mhm.
I have pictures where you see these little dots that look like
The
sparkles.
freckles, oh,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Dandy has a million. He's a beautiful seahorse when you really look at him. And like I said, he stays dark all the time, but that
Mm-hmm.
makes his sparkles really stand out. And when I get
Yep.
a close up picture of him with all his little sparkles,
Uh,
yeah, or like
I'm gonna
my
actually try to
friend's
really
daughter
seriously.
said, she's like, "Oh, his stripes. He has stripes. He's so pretty, like a zebra." And I'm like, "Yeah, he does."
So, two things I want to say before I click off this. Absolutely agree. And I'm going to try to post some pictures showing what we're talking about. I've never had a seahorse change saddle marks, but apparently it can happen, right?
Mhm,
And the sparkles, I've never had a seahorse that didn't have them. They do sparkle.
mhm.
Um, and, you know, even when you can't capture it in a picture, which I have, and I'll try to post, but they're just amazing. I freaking love seahorses, you guys.
Yeah,
Also, when we say things like Siri, what would be happening is you'd see like a hair. It almost looks like
yeah.
hair.
look
growing
like
out of that horn.
they
Not
remind
a horn,
me of looking at, like, if you look at a sea dragon, the way they have all the appendages with all
yes.
it's kind of more like that.
So interesting last fact is the one thing that will never change ever about a seahorse is its coronet. When I did the video, I did all my research. I can't remember which video, guys, but basically a seahorse's coronet is as individual as our fingerprints. Their coronet is like who they are, and none of them are identical. Like like a species will have, say, a backward facing coronet or a higher coronet, and coronet is the little crown on top of their head. Some of them have, blunt coronets. There's all sorts of things that will tell you the species, but apparently it's as individual as our fingerprints. I love that fact. Okay. All right. I'm done sharing that. Chris, any thoughts on any of this?
Any thoughts on what?
Chris?
Sorry, Siri, or
No, yeah, like why they don't keep Siri, or is there any other fun facts like the fact that their coronet is individual? Anything you want to share? I don't know. I'm just going with
yeah, well, having worked with a whole range of different species, Siri are very sort of individual to some species more than others. Like some of them show some absolutely spectacular Siri where it almost looks like a tree. It branches out and then it forks and then it branches out again and then it forks. And, you end up with almost, if you're familiar with like Ancestris or, bristlenose catfish, starts going a little bit like that, where it almost looks like a bit of a bush happening on some really spectacular seahorses. Others, it's just like, singular hair-like follicles, and it's pretty cool. But if you've ever watched like videos of seahorses in the wild with Siri, and you look at how the water flows, like the natural movement of the water, it sort of it makes them flow just like seaweed, or just
it
like
looks
anything
really
like
cool,
that
like
flowing down water.
Yeah,
Looks pretty spectacular.
Well, and Zen pointed out that
And
actually I do have a picture.
same thing for the coronet.
That's Siri on that little yellow seahorse that we see in the corner. That's Siri.
Yep.
All those little hairies. And when mine were juveniles, I had a few that had that and looked really cool, like big, long Siri, and they outgrew it. It vanished over time.
Chris, what I need is someone like you to do a program that figures out how to keep the Siri. I swear, my thoughts on this are that it has to do with, again, blending into the environment.
Camouflage.
But it doesn't make any sense because,
Why does
for
it go
instance, for instance, how do I have a batch of 200 fry? They start growing up, and 3 of them have this amazing, beautiful mane of Siri.
They don't all have it. A few of them
and the rest don't. Like, is it a genetic thing? And why do they get rid of it, Chris? Okay,
it is a genetic thing. So I've actually done other selective breeding programs in the past where Siri was actually a focus, because I was curious about that years ago as well. And it is actually a genetic component, and it is something that can actually be not necessarily bred into your seahorses, but if you selectively breed the best of the best seahorses with Siri, if you find some seahorses with some spectacular Siri like that, and you continue to breed those specimens with other specimens that have spectacular Siri, you will actually notice that a higher percentage, generation upon generation, will actually have better and better Siri. And that would be one way to achieve some pretty spectacular results with seahorses with Siri.
But how is it that they have them, but then it goes away as they grow up?
They have the capability of losing the Siri or reabsorbing them. or their Siri could potentially get damaged based on rubbing up against decorations and kind of like getting a scratch or getting an open wound. They can actually damage their Siri, and their Siri can actually grow back. But some factors might trigger them to lose their Siri. So it's all quite interesting. There are some genetic components, but there are also some like I guess you'd call them almost like biogeographical influences, where their environment and their situation that they're living in can cause them to either want to grow them or to lose their Siri, depending on whether it's benefiting them or not. If they're living in like a seaweed bed or a bed of macroalgae with all this free flowing stuff, then it's obviously to their benefit to grow some Siri that helps them to blend in with their environment, especially if they're able to closely color match whatever they're living in. It basically just turns them into a little pair of eyeballs that are living down in amongst the macroalgae and the seaweed.
Which is so cool.
Well, maybe that's why Sadie lost hers, is because she wants to stand out.
Well, not just that. I was going to say.
To the dish, and she's like, feed me now. She's not trying to hide.
Right. Well, that's what I was literally going to say.
But she has the little whiskers, which her mom did too.
Yeah.
Like the females, once again, kind of like I was saying the same with the saddling patterns and other stuff. The females have certain traits I've noticed that they inherited from their mom. And their mom came with Siri that gradually faded away. But I had, when I was raising my babies, a few of the juveniles had Siri.
Yep.
Which they eventually outgrew. They didn't have it anymore.
It sounds to me like, and Chris, tell me if you disagree, but it sounds to me like, again, it is genetic. Like maybe some can't grow it, period. And you can selectively breed it into fry, but it sounds like they get comfortable in our tanks and they know us and they know their environment and it doesn't change and they don't have to hide from predators. So they're like, I don't need this, kind of thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of that. Like in the wild, having Siri or not could be the difference between becoming some fish's snack or not. If they stand out too much in the wild, they could end up on the menu.
Right.
There are times in a seahorse's life where they want to stand out, where they want to, attract attention of their potential partners, or, they want to stand out for whatever reason. But most of the time, predominantly, especially in the wild, blending in is to their benefit, to their advantage.
Sure.
It helps them to hide from predators. It also helps them hide from their prey. So a little unsuspecting shrimp or krill or mysid might swim past and get a little bit too close and comfortable with the seaweed, and then all of a sudden some of the seaweed strikes and sucks it up. And
absolutely.
I think mine just want to attract the turkey baster.
Right. I was gonna say I'm gonna withdraw food. They're not eating until they grow Siri. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. But all right, guys. What else we got? What else? Oh, and I did see you said Zen Ginger that you added it to the cart, and it says this, that, and the other. Where are we in the scheme of things, Zen? We're still waiting on you. We still can't wait for you to get your seahorses.
We've got a cart of seahorses.
Right? Press pay. No, I'm just teasing. But I would say, in this current environment where we need to get something set up to network, it's not there yet. Again, I'm going to shout out Fish Family. Definitely would help you if you wanted to do it. If you don't, I'm going to. And but until then, until we can get that done and up and get people involved and actually contributing to it, I would say Biota is a good resource for
Mm-hmm.
seahorses. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Bonnie asked earlier if Live Aquaria was still selling them. Thoughts on that, Holly? Live Aquaria.
I've I've never got seahorses from them. I've only got them from Melissa, honestly, and then I raised my own from the ones I got from Melissa. So I don't have any experience with Live Aquaria other than their other stuff. I want to say I've got stuff from them in the past, but I don't remember what. I want to say back in the day, I think when I did the reef style tank, I think I got some coral type stuff from them
Mm-hmm.
in the past, but never seahorses. And I just know, I think from hearing things from people on the channel, they're not necessarily the best source for seahorses specifically because they're not captive bred. I think they're pen
Well,
raised.
okay, so let me
Maybe
just let me just
about that
tell
before.
let me just tell you what I know. What I know is that I'm going to say good things about Live Aquaria and say that they don't have any seahorses in stock. I just checked. They
Mhm.
do have dragonfish, pipefish, excuse
Pipefish.
me.
Mhm.
Um, what I would say from my connections there is that they don't want to provide seahorses unless they have a capable person working there to care for them.
Mhm.
So that's a good thing in my book. I'd rather someone not sell them,
Yeah.
um, and put people in place to take care of them properly so they're selling good seahorses than not. So that's what I know. I don't think that they're not selling them now. It says email me when in stock. And you guys, I mean, that's the bottom line. We need breeders who go through the struggle of raising them because that is such a huge undertaking. And we need to, we need to pay as much as we can because they're providing these captive bred seahorses to us. And it's a
Mhm.
lot of work to raise them. And we get off easy because we can just keep the seahorses and they're healthy
Yeah.
and,
It's
things
good
work
to
out.
support those people, I think,
Yeah,
that are doing their best to provide the hobby with
right.
healthy specimens. And
Absolutely. And I, for one, hope
they're
that
not
Alyssa
an
comes back.
easy they're not that easy to keep. Like I've talked to somebody at my local fish store recently, and she's interested in seahorses and likes them, but she is working in that industry and she realizes they're not for her because she doesn't have the time or the budget right now to keep them. And it's not, I don't want to say it's not, I maybe worded that wrong. It's not that they're hard to keep. It's that they're labor intensive and they can be expensive because they do involve a lot of strong filtration, water changes, and such. So if you're
So
not used to
I
the
would
saltwater
completely disagree with
hobby
you.
too, I mean that's another thing. As somebody who came from freshwater to saltwater, salt is not cheap.
Okay, I
It's
won't
not.
argue with you. I
They're
won't argue with
costing
you.
me more than my dogs cost me.
I would not argue with you about the cost. They are expensive, but I would absolutely argue that they're hard to keep. And Dan argued this every time he was on the channel. They're not hard to keep. They're
It's
just
not hard,
different.
it's
They're
labor intensive is what
they're
it
different
is.
to keep. And if you set up properly, right? Like
Mhm.
I mean,
They're not like the fish, like my freshwater fish. I can feed them in the morning and leave all day and they're good to go. I can leave them for a weekend or whatever and not be home and they're fine. The seahorses I cannot do that with.
I do.
It's not the same, you know.
I
It
do all the time. I mean, I do all the time. I'm not trying to
Mhm,
be any
mhm,
kind of way, but I
mhm.
think I think we spend so much time going over what can go wrong and how to
Mhm.
fix what's wrong and
Mhm.
all these precautions that, yes, absolutely take them, but I just think we make a bigger deal out of it than sometimes necessary. We're here absolutely to help anyone with a problem. I'm
Mhm.
not saying they don't occur, but Zen mentioned discus. I spent more money, time, and
Mhm.
effort on my discus than I did on seahorses. They are
Mhm.
an they are a fish that you have to individualize. So you have to focus in on
Mhm.
setting up the tank right, making sure you're caring for them right, etc. But like with my discus, I have really hard water, so I had to soften the water. It was like
Mhm.
this big cat. I mean, so it's just if you want to keep them, we're here to help you keep them. I don't think we should
Mhm.
label it hard or easy because it depends on what you want, right? And if
Yeah,
you,
it's all relative, but I'll
yeah,
say it's not like my goldfish.
no,
But people
they're
come
absolutely
into
not
the
like
hobby
goldfish.
expecting that. I see that all the time. They want to go to this store and buy the seahorses and just bring them home. It's not that easy. It really
Oh,
is.
okay.
You know,
Chris, thoughts?
that's what I'm saying.
I've got
It's
some
not.
interesting thoughts. So
Yes,
Yeah.
I
go.
think that the discus comparison is actually a really apt comparison. Like discus, as far as freshwater fish go, uh, kind of upper level on the maintenance side of
Hey,
things.
Chris,
They're a pretty
Chris,
labor and yeah.
Chris. If you're moving around, stop because you're breaking up.
Yeah, sorry, that's just bad reception where I am.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say that yeah, discus is really an apt example because, in my personal opinion, going from being a freshwater fish keeper to a seahorse keeper is probably a better transition than going from keeping, corals like saltwater corals to
Mhm.
seahorse keeping, because the general mindset of a freshwater fish keeper, keeping on top of the basics like water changes and feeding, and just keeping the animals well fed but keeping the water quality high, is probably more important than people who are used to keeping corals and are used to doing um, as few water changes as they can get away with.
Love that. That's a good point.
Mhm.
I Dan always said that too, that
Yeah.
someone in salt water is going to have a harder transition because it goes from one spectrum, one end of the spectrum to the other.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah,
Whereas,
they almost have to
go ahead.
unlearn some of their previous mindsets.
Mhm.
Like what? Can
Um,
you give us some examples?
just people more focused on keeping corals and whatnot. Try and generally get away with feeding minimal, and trying to push out as long between water changes or whatever as they can, and whether they do that by dosing trace minerals and things, to keep their corals happy or whatever, they try and minimize the amount of water changes that they can do. Whereas someone who's coming from the freshwater hobby, who's used to dealing with messy fish, where
Mhm.
you know filtr- filtration and water changes, the only way to combat the high waste levels that are associated with the feeding necessary for their fish. It's just an easier transition from those sort of mindsets. The other thing I'll say, earlier you were talking about seahorses being labor intensive, for the and to support the people that are breeding and raising them for the hobby. Yeah, like 110%. Like, raising seahorses or farming seahorses is a lifestyle. It's not easy by
Mhm.
any stretch of the imagination. The seahorses, I wouldn't say the seahorses never sleep, because if you turn off all the lights, they generally will go to sleep.
They
But
do.
they're always there waiting for you the next day, and like, if you're living it like a lifestyle, I was raising them at Seahorse World for more than 5 years, and there's always something going on when you're working in a large scale facility like that. There's always more seahorse problems. There's always 101 things to do. It's a lifestyle, and people that are in the lifestyle of breeding and raising seahorses for the aquarium trade. It takes a special kind of person, like passionate sort of. They're doing it for the love of the animals. If we were in it to get rich, I don't think anyone would be doing it.
Right. And that's
True,
why we need
true.
you back in it, Chris. And I
Mhm.
would totally agree with what you say, with what you just said, because there is a big difference. And when you're talking about raising fry and becoming a breeder, that
Mhm.
I absolutely agree is labor intensive. Whereas and maybe it's because I've kept them for so long or whatever, but I just feel like they're pretty simple and easy, especially if you get quality seahorses
Mhm.
and you set up right. Like I you guys know I've slacked off. That's probably why I don't have fry, right? Because in my all-in-one, I only do one water change a week. That's pretty average for any aquarium.
Mhm.
I There are many times that I only feed twice a day, right?
Mhm.
And they're still okay. So again, we tell you on
Don't
this
tell
channel,
Ray.
don't tell Ray. I was gonna say we tell you guys the best way to keep seahorses, but if you want the honest scoop, you can keep them well, happy, healthy, not concaved, etc. For a little less is all I'm saying. I always want people to do the most, for their seahorses. That's why we
Mhm.
provide the best information. But I'm also saying they're not so labor intensive that if you miss a water change, or if you miss a feeding, they're
Yeah.
gonna keel over. They're not. They're actually pretty strong. And what Holly's saying is she does the most to make
Mhm.
sure they stay strong. That's
Mhm.
the way to do it.
Mhm.
But I'm just taking the other end and saying, you know, if you can't or don't, they're not so delicate
They're
that
not as
they're gonna die.
delicate, and I agree with Chris. I would say because I never did coral before I did seahorses. I did the seahorses first. I went from
Mhm.
freshwater to seahorses and then added some coral in with the seahorses my first time around. And coral keeping is more about perfect chemistry.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of it is like for people who are used to keeping reefs and they're concentrating on how much magnesium or calcium is in their water and things like that.
Yep.
Well, the seahorses don't care about any of that. It's very
Mm-mm.
basic. It's more like Chris was saying, it's more the same things you pay attention to with freshwater fish.
Yep.
I haven't actually checked my water perimeters in probably close to a year.
Yep.
And I don't keep anything but the seahorses and a couple incidental fish. So they're not hard in that sense. It's not like they're hard as far as chemistry and things like that. It's more about the water changes. Like, I do keep up on their water changes. I change quite a bit of water out every week. Got to make sure all the equipment's working properly. And then the normal person coming into my home that's used to keeping an aquarium doesn't know how to keep an aquarium like this
Sure.
because
Sure.
they have equipment that my freshwater tank and the goldfish don't have. So
Sure.
that's kind of more what you
I get
know
it.
what
I
I'm
get what you're saying.
about. And it's hard for me to leave because I don't have anybody who feels comfortable with the responsibility of managing that equipment if something
Sure.
goes wrong or
And I you guys know, if you watch this channel, I had a bad experience
Or
once
power goes out. In my area,
where
that's a frequent thing.
right, where my stepmother ish forgot to turn pumps back on and etc. And I lost a pair of seahorses and it was awful. So I'm not disagreeing with you in any sense of the form, Holly. I'm just saying I see the other side of it too. I've also left for a weekend and not had anyone come, and everything was fine when I got back. I do have a camera on tanks, so I can tell if something happens, and I have emergency contacts. I've I do have someone that comes and feeds if I leave for more than a day or two. But I don't expect them to do water changes, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah.
and the overall sense of the thing is, I just don't want people to be scared to keep seahorses. What's really important, again, is setting up properly and buying from a reliable source. And we're gonna try to make that easier by putting hobbyist breeders together. My seahorses from Holly and Vincent are still doing amazing, even though I slack off. Right? So just put that out there. And Shiloh went from
no fish
to
seahorses.
seahorses.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, right. They're not cheap. And
Yeah.
if you want them, you set up the tank designed for them. So again, when we're talking about they're not cheap, but you also have to consider, look, I'm like, everybody buy seahorses, just do it. And it's not true. I'm not right. If you're not ready for the commitment, don't do it, for
Just
sure.
research and know what you're getting into
And
is
come
what I have
here.
to say about it. And yeah, they're not hard. I'll agree with you there, but they are a commitment.
They are a commitment. I agree with that. And I would say too, that come here, ask questions. We're gonna pull Zen into one of these live streams. As you can see, Zen, Chris Carey is not showing his face. He's not showing us anything, but he can still talk. You can do that. But we need to get her in here when she finally does set up for the seahorses to just cover, that initial setup, because my setting up a seahorse tank video is very long and it's kind of old. So I've changed some of my thoughts, right? I need to do a new one, haven't had time. But so if we could walk through it with someone like Zen, that would be amazing. Wink, wink, right? Because that's what people need to see. But I would just say that they're hardier than people think. And I agree with everything said, but talking about the cost, right? So one of the things that Holly just mentioned is, yes, well, what I was going to say is
right now.
salt, but if you're that's no different if you're doing a reef tank or a seahorse tank, right?
No, but if you're not doing either, if you're going from fresh water, you don't buy salt.
Truth?
I spend $100 on salt a month for 2 tanks.
Well, and for some reason, salt in California is more expensive than Indiana. We established that.
I don't think so, because we looked it up. Remember last week on Petco, you got the same price as me. It's the going rate's like 40 to 50 a bucket as a deal.
Oh, that's right.
If anybody else has something else, I want to know where.
We figured out that I'm buying a smaller quantity of salt than you are. That's what we figured out. But yes, salt's expensive.
A 50-pound bucket is roughly 40 to 50 bucks. I get deals on it because I'm in a club and whatever. So with taxes and everything out the door, I just had a bucket delivered to me today. It was $46. And that's a 5-gallon size bucket of salt, by the way. What, 240 gallons it makes or something like that? I don't know.
So while Holly's trying to convince everybody not to do seahorses.
No. I'm just saying, just don't jump into it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I don't know what I got myself into.
Right. No, that's perfect advice. It's truthful advice. No one should set up a saltwater tank, period, unless you know and understand you're going to have to buy salt.
You have to buy salt.
But with the what I was gonna say is equipment wise, there are certain things that are more important with a seahorse tank versus a reef. So with a reef, you need to get a big expensive light. With seahorses, you do not. Um, in my tank, I make my own K1 media reactors. It's really cheap, right? So oh, Chris left us. If he comes back, I'll put him back in. He wasn't feeling good
He'll come
anyways.
back.
Yeah, there he is. He's already back. Oh, he has no video feed. I can't put him in. He must be having connection problems. Let's see if we can get him back. Anyhow, I was just saying, you got to want to do it for absolute sure. I'm telling you, it's worth it. They're freaking amazing. We need to set up a resource for people to get them still, quality seahorses. But oh God, I just can't imagine my life without seahorses. Seriously. I literally took a break when my mom passed, not on purpose, just because I couldn't do it. And I had to go back because they're just such amazing social creatures that, like in my reef tank, I loved it. And there's amazing things about coral. There's amazing things about every fish. But the seahorses interact with you. I mean, they're just amazing.
For that. Like last weekend, I had a friend's teenage daughter came over and she wanted to take pictures of the seahorses for her photography class and just see the seahorses. She was just interested. So came over and she brought her nice camera and took pictures, and I let her feed the seahorses. And Sadie warmed right up to her, like, oh, you've got a turkey baster and you're putting it in a dish. And she came right over and ate. And yeah, so this girl had a cool experience, interacting with the seahorses and noticing how they were different. Like she noticed Dandy had the stripes, and that Sadie came over to her dish and followed the turkey so yeah, they're a cool fish that you can interact with. And
people are freaking amazed that you're keeping seahorses. I've had the same, I'll admit, I've had the same experience as Holly, where when my coworkers found out that I keep seahorses, they're all like, I want to keep seahorses. And then when I tell them what's involved, they're like, no,
I don't want to do that though.
But these are people that don't keep tanks, period. Like any tank would be, oh, never mind, once you hear the truth. And I do agree with Holly that it's a big mistake for anybody to go out and just buy fish of any kind, let alone seahorses, and then figure it out, because if you figure it out first, you don't have as many problems. But I just hate that there's this thought that seahorses are delicate. They're not. They're very hardy. And it's just different, right? And that's why we're here, is that when you're ready to set up, if you want to set up, come here and talk to us. We'll walk you through it. We'll give you the link. You can jump in the live stream and we'll figure it out together. Let's see, Chris, keep trying to come back in. And yeah, for people like Zen or any members of the channel, we do talk after and before the stream, and we get a little more honest, or we tell, we be ourselves a little bit more, not on camera. You're more than welcome to join. Same link if you need it. Message me, because you always can join the after party. And what I was gonna say is, Chris, if you are here, I'm out of wine, so I'm gonna have to stop for tonight. And do the after party. But anything else you wanted to share, Chris?
Chris is there.
Back.
I did see he shared the link for that CITES thing I was telling you about earlier before we went.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's do that real quick.
Yeah, I'm here. So a couple of quick things. There's actually in Brisbane, and I'm not 100% sure what's going on there or what's been discussed or proposed. If that was going on, it's been a great event to attend, but it should be interesting to see what comes of that. I mean, Brisbane, yeah, thousands of kilometres here, so it's quite a way, but it'd be interesting to be on the wall in there. And the other thing I was going to say is I was talking to Graham Short, and he's actually to be visiting the US again soon. So if you're free, or depending on what you're doing, you should to hopefully up with him, or maybe even him to be another guest speaker on Wednesday, and he can tell you up to lately.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I will reach out to Graham because he's doing cool stuff. We would love to have him back. He came long ago. Just search on the channel if you want to see it. But he is an ichthyologist that studies species and names. He's actually got a paper where he was involved in the what was the name of you guys? Japapigu, I think, or I can't remember. He identified a new species, or helped to. He was part of the process. And he does a lot of cool things. So thank you, Chris, for the update. I will get in touch with him and see if he can join us for a Wine Wednesday here when he's in town. And Holly, why don't you go ahead and share what the CITES thing is about and the link, if you would.
Well, it's in our private chat. The link is. Chris put it.
Okay, I'll share it. Go ahead.
So I think you can share it from where you are, but
Yep.
I looked at it briefly, and they're just meeting to discuss the situations going on with importing species, I think, and rules and regulations and all that is what they're all about. So, like Chris said, I'm not part of that, so I don't know what's going on, what they are discussing, but I hope there's a good outcome to it, and it's not going to be to the point where nothing can be imported from Australia anymore,
Okay, so we're looking at it now.
I think people are going to be, voicing their concerns over what's going on, in the hobby, and fish trade and so on. So
Definitely. The main reason why I brought this up was just because
that it's a
Seahorse
positive outcome.
Seahorses fall under CITES regulations, so they're under Appendix 2 of the CITES thing. So any decisions that get made that affect CITES affect the seahorses in the trade. So it's important to keep tabs on.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there any, this is what bothers me, is there's never a representative from the aquarium trade at these events. Like,
I think they are, though, from what I was reading. It sounds like they are. It sounds like.
Okay, let me share it again and we'll see.
And I think you could just go, like, if you joined the workshop. See, I think, like Chris said, if he knew about it ahead of time, I think he could have gone there, right, Chris?
Oh, no, you're right. The global ornamental aquatics industry is making its pitch this week at a special. Okay, I read it wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, so
that's
it's a
really
workshop
cool
going on. So I think people in the trade can just go. They would have had to register, and
so we need these links.
They could voice their concerns and, maybe talk things out and find solutions to problems that are going on. That would be
Man, I wish one of us could be there. I wish Dan could be there because he's got a lot to say about CITES. And I know they're just trying to protect, but
yeah, what they try to do is not a bad thing, but I think
right.
there's better ways to go about it. And I think if the communication is key, like if people in the trade go to these events when they're able to and voice their concerns, maybe solutions could be found.
Right. Yeah. See, look, the
Nobody
European.
wants to wipe out seahorse populations or any fish populations. We want people, I think, who are in the hobby are passionate about these creatures. They're passionate about the environment and fish. Nobody wants to deplete the
Right.
oceans, but at the same time, we're also helping these species survive because we're the ones that learn about them and know about them and
Yep.
can maybe provide help for them to continue their survival in the wild, not just in captivity. So I think the two sides really shouldn't be opposed. They need to come together. We need to preserve what's in our oceans, but we also need to preserve what's in our hobby.
That's.
What?
100%.
Absolutely. And Dan always used to talk about the fact that, like you were saying, Holly, seahorse fry have a much larger chance of survival in not just our hobbyist tanks, but in places like Seahorse World or Australia, where
Mhm,
Chris was doing all these different breeding programs
mhm,
and keeping them alive and providing to the trade,
mhm,
whereas they're dying off in the ocean because of climate change and whatever. I mean, Chris,
mhm.
what were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, look, I definitely 100% agree with Holly's sentiment that the hobby and the conservation scientists need to work together rather than in opposition to each other. Ultimately, we all want the same thing. We just want it in different ways. And I think for the amount of benefit that the hobby provides, both in in aware in raising the awareness and providing more scientific knowledge and that on seahorse species, being able to study captivity, leads us to so much greater understanding of these animals, especially cryptic and hard to find
Mm-hmm.
in the wild. I think
Yeah.
the what Bobby sort of brings to the table is invaluable in terms of scientific knowledge and just getting to know these animals so much better and how to keep them. And even instances like the Whitey Eye program where they were breeding them in captivity for release back into the wild in areas where they were depleted locally. Here in Australia, there's so much potential there for the hobby to give back to wild stocks or help
Mhm.
with the conservation effort, not just be seen as opposition or whatever. Because I
And
mean,
let,
when
let's
when you
let go ahead. Sorry.
when you read right up on everything that's happening with seahorses being taken from the wild and everything, the numbers that are being taken by the aquarium hobby are not uh,
Mhm.
they're not
True.
super detrimental to wild stocks. It's a bit like a drop in the bucket. But if you look at things like the traditional Chinese medicine trade,
Mhm.
that's really not good. And
Right.
I can understand why the conservationists rail against them so hard. And I'll never say a nice thing about the traditional Chinese medicine trade because of the sheer numbers and the sheer pillaging
Yeah.
of the environment that
Well,
they
and
do.
the way they get stuck, the trawling, I think, and a lot of I know from what we get here in California, from what I've heard, as far as the source of seahorses is bycatch,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
and that's from trawling where they're just dragging a net and whatever's in it is in it, and things are killed and injured for no good purpose. They're not even trying to preserve fish.
Well,
And
I would say a couple of things. I got a couple comments here. First off, totally with everything that was just said, but I know Dan has talked about the fact that scientific research over in places where they do traditional Chinese medicine are coming up with some of the major advances in producing like captive bred seahorses for medicine. So I'm throwing that out there. Not saying I agree with any of it. I'm just saying they're trying to find a resolution. I would also say I
That's
want to
an
be very
improvement
clear.
over what used to be. So
Right. I want to be very clear too, also to everybody on this channel, what Chris is talking about, and I'm going to ask him about the handfish in a moment so he can share about that. But what he's talking about when facilities such as one he worked for are working with, the environmentalist to do a release program, they have special criteria. Please, no one release their seahorses into any water, please, because that's why we ended up with a lionfish problem. That's why we have a callirpa problem. That's why we have all these problems, is people thinking they're doing the right thing and releasing captive bred seahorses into the ocean. When a facility does it, that's a totally different thing. Hobbyists, don't do it. Please do never release seahorses into the ocean. Also, unless you're a facility working with a program, right? Just to make that clear.
Working with scientists.
Also, yeah,
yeah.
and working with scientists, exactly. So there's good things coming from the industry as a whole where, they're working together, but I'm just saying hobbyists don't do it. And then also I wanted to say, I made notes because I always forget what I want to say. But I would say too, Chris pointed out that, scientific research is advancing because of us hobbyists. I mean, it comes down to basic stuff. They literally thought that seahorses were disappearing from the wild when they were just moving. And that's been proven.
Mm-hmm.
They literally thought that seahorses only lived for a year or two. That's been disproven. So, I mean, like, the hobby's making a difference in many ways. All right, I got all my points out. What else, Chris? What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, no, releasing any aquarium fish or animal back into the wild environment is not a good thing. Even if that's where it originally came from. There's so much potential for nasty things like diseases, pests, whatever being released back into the environment, and yeah, that's how you end up with translocated species running rampant. I mean, if you know anything about the history of Australia, the rabbits, the foxes, the cane toads, so many things have been released here into our environment and have just run wild, taken over, and caused a lot of damage to the environment.
But on the other end of the spectrum, you were, I don't know if you were physically part of, but your association was a part of the Handfish Project, which was literally trying to reproduce in captivity to release into the wild as a facility. Yep. Like, you knew the work, how to do it, what to do, how to keep them capable of being afraid of predators and all that good stuff. Was it like, and it was successful, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were part of that program. We were breeding and raising them in captivity for release back into the wild. Now, just for context, the spotted handfish at the time when I was part of that project and working with them, there were estimated to be potentially less than 1,000 of them left in the wild. Mm-hmm. So they were critically endangered and right on the brink of extinction. And the red handfish, they had it even worse. There was estimated to be potentially less than 100 red handfish left in the wild.
Wow.
And both of those programs had really positive outcomes, where quite a lot of fish were bred and raised and released by the scientists back into their environment as part of the conservation program. There was actually, I'm just looking for it now, there was actually a bit of a continuation of that where the scientists who were studying the red handfish went and collected a whole bunch of individuals from the wild because they were worried about the ocean temperatures on the east coast of Tasmania where they're found getting too high, because we were having a marine heat wave over the summer, and they were worried that it was going to wipe out a high percentage of the rest of the handfish because they're so sensitive to temperature. So they actually collected a good percentage of their. I've just got the thing here now. So they collected nearly a fifth of the estimated population, and they kept them in a facility over the summer, and kept their temperatures nice and cool, and kept them fed and looked after. And they've released them back into the wild now, as the summer has basically ended here in Australia. We're basically just about to come into winter, so the temperatures have gone back down. And they did a post a day or two ago, where they show all of the photos and that from their rescue program, where they've basically went and collected a whole bunch of these animals and sort of safeguarded them over the summer while they were having extremely high marine temperatures down there, and they've released them all back into the wild. It sounds like they've had a really good outcome.
Wonderful. Now, do they move though? Like, I think we've discussed here before, like seahorses will move, based on temperatures to be comfortable.
Seahorses can move. They can readily let go of their hitch. They can let go with their prehensile tail and just kind of go with the flow. The problem with the handfish is that they're a negatively buoyant fish, so they don't just swim in the open ocean. They are on the seafloor all of the time. They can swim up into the water column and then drop again, but by and large they don't move very much. If you've ever watched video footage,
migrate really like out of the way of weather or things like that.
Yeah, they can't really translocate. They can't really move themselves, which is kind of a little bit to their detriment when they're facing problems like habitat loss. So basically, they can't get out of the way, or they can't just get up and move if conditions aren't ideal. So seahorses have that advantage over the handfish in that regard. And if you've ever, I've worked with them, and I've seen a handfish that's spotted a piece of food that might be 6 inches away from it, and they get really excited, and then they start they're almost like a horse galloping towards their food. But imagine that in ultra slow motion. So they're very, 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 very slowly taking a step towards their food.
Aww.
And they're super, excited about their food, and they're very slowly going towards it. But it's like watching a slow motion video.
Aww.
It's almost painful to watch. It's cute, but it's painful to watch.
I don't know. I've seen seahorses that act like that sometimes.
Right. I was going to say too that, Chris, I mean, just the things that you've done are amazing. I'm not only jealous, but I'm so appreciative. I'm going to jump to a couple questions. If there's more to say about this, we absolutely can. But I'm going to jump back to your question, Zen. But Aquaballs asked, how long do pygmy seahorses live? So
they mean dwarfs. Because he's keeping dwarfs.
So, okay. First question is, do you mean pygmy seahorses or dwarfs? So my first comment is, I just wanted to share this. I actually met Dr. Richard Smith, and he's amazing. Anything you want to know about actual pygmy seahorses, which are even smaller than dwarfs, they're tiny. Dr. Richard Smith, just search pygmy seahorses, Dr. Richard Smith. And I think this is just images, and he talks about what he's done with them. But he is who works with Graham
There's
Short.
pygmies right there. They're so
Yep.
adorable. I love those. But what
I
are they,
know.
like a couple centimeters, if even that?
Yes, they're they're
pinky.
freaking tiny. Sorry, the size of
You
your
can't even
pinky
see them. They didn't
nail.
discover them till the 60s, right? Or 70s, I want to say.
Right. I love that one. He looks like a little
I
rooster
saw
or
a
something.
video of one recently somebody shared. It was so adorable. But yeah, they're cool. But nobody has them for pets. They're not.
No, the
So
other
they're
person I
talking
would
about
say,
dwarves, I think.
right, and we'll go back to that. I just wanted to clear it up. So if you're looking for information about pygmy seahorses, I would absolutely go to anything that said Dr. Richard Smith. And again, this is mainly pictures, but there's about him, pregnant. I mean, he has a lot of
Very
information.
cool.
The other person is pygmy seahorses, Richard Ross, because Richard Ross worked with the California, I can't remember the whole name, Aquarium of Sciences or whatever. And he's been on the
Didn't he have him
show.
on the show? I was going to say, I remember he was on here once.
He's been on the show, the Steinhardt team. That's right. So
Mhm.
he bred pygmy seahorses in captivity, and they had many struggles, many difficulties. They still haven't figured out what it would take to keep pygmy seahorses in aquariums, nor whether it's a good idea. So no pygmies for the aquarium trade is all I was saying. And if you want information about them, go to Richard Ross, Dr. Richard Ross, or Dr. Richard Smith. Those are the two absolute, that's who you want to talk to or listen to about pygmies. When you talk about dwarfs, you are right that dwarfs only live, I don't know the actual absolute number. I would say, I think Dan said 2
1
years,
to
2 to
2
3 years.
years, I've
1 to
heard.
2 years.
1 to 2
Yeah.
years. Mhm.
And you'll notice, though, that the dwarf seahorse, the Zosterae, Hippocampus zosterae,
Australia.
they like produce more often, smaller batches, but like more often. And you can keep them all in the same
And
tank.
they're easier to raise the babies because it's the same as the adults.
Because you're already feeding them
Yeah.
live feeds all the time. It's easier to raise them. Absolutely. Thank you, Holly. And the constant live feeding, Zen said, is too much for me. Right. That's why, again, we're going to go to
like
your.
having baby erectus all the time.
That's exactly how we describe it. But Zen did ask, is there a place you could ship captive bred babies to? Right here, right here, ship them to Kelly. But also, that's why we were talking about this database. And again, if Fish Fam Links isn't into it, I'm going to do it myself. I don't have to complete the full website, but we'll keep working on it as we go. Again, I don't want to just put a database out there where people can connect and network and not have documents that say, here's how you should ship, or here's what you need to ask a breeder. I really want to get all of that done, but I can at least get the database done to where people can connect, kind of not a forum, but kind of like a forum where you could say, I've got fry, no promises, all you got to pay is shipping or whatever. And then someone like me could say, I want them, right? And then a more established breeder could say, I have juveniles, they're this old, they're this height, they're this whatever, they're on frozen mysis, blah, blah, blah. And someone could buy them. I'm trying to work that out, need help. So come help me, anybody, because I want to make it a reality, because that's what we need. But in the meantime, everyone just contact me. I'll take all your babies. All of them.
Yeah. Talk to Heather. Like I said, she's getting more and more. She has somebody that's taking them that's a couple hours away that will drive and come pick them up from her. And but she has more and more. I keep seeing her posting, but she's like, oh, I got another warning fry from a different male. So she has multiple males having babies and she doesn't want to raise anymore.
I know.
I would hit her up. She'll probably send you some.
I'm gonna
'Cause
hit her
I
up for
don't think
sure.
you guys are that far. She's in Pennsylvania
No,
and you're in
we
Indiana.
actually we had a plan to try to do this before, and
Mhm.
it fell apart just because of timing and everything else. So I will absolutely,
Maybe hit
but
her up
I
and
think
say,
she's
hey.
ta- I think she has combs, right? Or is it
No, no,
erectus?
no. She's got erectus.
Okay, okay, all right. I'm hitting her up then for
Mhm.
sure. Guys, I'll have Fry, even though I didn't breed them. But hey, I will hit her up. And Chris Airy did make a good comment too. If until we get this site processed and going, and until there is a resource like that, you can absolutely hit up your local aquarium. Good point, Chris, because they'll usually take them instead of just letting
Heather
them
does
go.
that too because she
Yep.
sold hers to public aquariums there.
And I did, yeah, I think that was it. Did I cover everything? Questions? Oh, Zen said the constant feeding is too much for me. Exactly. You got to
Or the
want to breed
dwarfs.
seahorses and take care of fry or keep dwarf seahorses
Yeah.
because it does require. And Aquaballs has the live brine shrimp every day. If you're
Yeah.
already doing it, absolutely, why not?
Yeah.
But if you're not,
Yeah.
it becomes a thing, right? It can be breeding is definitely different than raising or keeping, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Anything
because the dwarfs will always eat that live. So you're on the routine
yeah,
when you're raising the erectus, they have to be trained to eat frozen food.
much harder.
So it's not the same as just following the same routine forever. You gotta transition.
But another good point in saying that just keeping captive bred adult seahorses is like maybe that's why I feel like it's so not extensive is because fry are so
Because you're used
extensive.
to raising fry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
And
but
you've
I mean,
done reef tanks too. So you've done like
the
higher,
hard stuff,
the
right?
harder stuff. But
So
yeah,
I'm
the
like,
same.
it's
So
simple.
somebody like me who went from goldfish to seahorses, I'm like, there's a big difference.
Right, right. I should not make it sound like it's simple because it's not, but it's simpler than raising fry. And I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. Chris, anything else to add? I am gonna have to end it, guys. It's almost 11 o'clock. We've been going 3 hours, which is awesome. I love
That's a
being
bit
with you
epic.
guys.
Yeah, I missed
But
you guys last week.
yeah, did you have fun though?
I did, but honestly, I probably would have had more fun with you guys.
Aw. Well,
Seriously.
she did try to join us after we ended. We made it short last week and
Yeah, I was trying to use my cell phone because I was at a show, like at a local club, and I had time. I would have joined, but I don't know how to do anything from my cell phone. So
hey, before we end, did we ever get an update from Shyla?
oh yeah, she
He did
did
say
say if
something.
you scroll back,
Okay, go ahead, Chris, while I scroll.
nobody's having babies now, she was saying, but she still has most of the same ones. She's lost a few, but she still has most of them that she's been raising.
All right, let's let Chris make his comments. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm all good. I don't really have anything else to really add.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you. Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
Sorry, I thought you said you did have some comments. I'm gonna he's in Australia, guys, so there's a little bit of a
There's
delay.
delay, yes.
But go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just it's good to chat with you guys again. Maybe see if you can get Zen to join the after party, and maybe it'll be her way to ease the transition into coming on one day.
So Zen, I need to find. I haven't talked to you like via message
Oh,
in a
and
long
there's
time.
somebody new here. This Aqua Ball says they're in California. I'm in California too.
Yeah.
But they're probably closer to the coast. I'm in Northern California. I'm in north of Sacramento, closer to Redding. So I don't know where they are in California, but California is a huge state, so things are probably very different for me up here as an aquarium hobbyist.
They're in Los Angeles, California, and I
Yeah,
would say
long ways.
Aquaballs.
I'm almost to Oregon.
Well, I was gonna say Aquaballs that we do have times where there's guest speakers and it's more professionally, set up and etc. And we can try to bring in anybody that anybody wants to hear from, but we're really just a community. Like there's many times our whole discussion is about water quality. So even if people don't keep seahorses, I know you do. So glad to have you. Love that you've subscribed. But I mean, tell people because, you know, the more people we have here, the more we can do with it. But I just love our little community. And so we're just glad to have you. Glad you came upon us and definitely join us again because we
Sure.
sometimes talk about the weather. It's whatever. We just
Yeah.
are a bunch of friends getting together. And then if someone does have a problem or questions about keeping seriously, if someone has questions about keeping dwarf seahorses, I hope you'll join in and share your experience and help someone because I've never kept dwarf seahorses.
For sure.
So
I tried. I
that's
had
what
them
this is about.
briefly. They're cute little things. They're like permanent fry to me now that I have the erectus. That's how I think of the dwarves, but they were cute little things.
You know what's interesting to me though is that even Dan said that it's easier, it would be easier if you're breeding, not keeping, but breeding to just do dwarfs because he used to have like all these different ways of doing things. Like he would keep his mysid shrimp in the tub with the dwarfs and their babies, right? So like it was this constant thing where he could use them to feed other tanks and the dwarfs were too small to eat them.
Dwarfs, like I was saying, is they're consistent because the babies can live with the parents and they're eating the same thing. So you can always feed them. Like I said, they're eating the constant live food. You're always feeding them the brine shrimp.
Right.
So on that level, it can be easier. Like you get into your routine. And when you're raising erectus fry, like you've got to teach them how to eat frozen food. And you never have to do that with dwarves. I mean, there's different things between the two.
Depends on what else
the main differences I see is they're like permanent fry to me.
Yep.
So if you get in the habit of doing that routine for them, you'll be successful.
Right. So I was just going to agree with you and just say it depends on what you got going on. It sounds like Aquaballs is already doing this hatchery that why not feed the seahorses? Absolutely. For someone like me, it's a huge undertaking to provide that live feed on a constant, and I'm not very good at it. I've had them crash.
It's a schedule. You got to make a schedule. Right. That's why.
Not good at that either.
That's the part of it.
It sounds like Aquaballs, you might need a link to join and come in here and tell us about your experience. We would love that. We invite anyone to join us. If you're interested, reach out to me.
And see them because I love seeing people's seahorses. That's one of the things I love on our Facebook page when people are sharing pictures of their seahorses, and I like to see them.
Well, if you are interested in joining us some week to chat, reach out. If you're on Facebook, just reach out to me. It's Zen. Can you put up a link to my page and also personal maybe? But yeah, we'd love to have you on. I don't want to share the link right here because that was a mistake. We tried to let anybody just jump in anytime, and we had a very bad line Wednesday where someone was trying to say awful stuff, racist stuff, awful stuff.
Yeah.
So we can't just put it out there, but anybody who joins us and talks with us and really wants to talk seahorses, yeah, we'd love to have you in. So reach out to me. And I don't think she did put it up, so let me try to put it up. Holly, you got any closing stuff while I try to get this for them? I love putting you on the spot.
I don't really, other than I was gonna ask you actually in the after hours, but I can ask you here too, because when I was just talking about, sharing pictures and things of the Seahorse is just as cool stuff, not about how to do anything. But I was thinking about inviting the young lady that came and took pictures of my seahorses to come on as a guest and share her pictures and maybe thoughts she had about the seahorses and tell about what she's doing in her photography class and things. Because I just think it's cool for especially, for young people, to help get them excited about sciences and nature and things like that. And I want to say she's in junior high age right now, so I was thinking that might be a cool thing for her, and see if you guys might be interested in something.
Sounds fantastic. I'm all about, different kinds of guests, and I think that'd be great. So invite her, let me know. And I just noticed, Zen, that you did put up the Fish Fam links. That was the easier way to do it. Sorry. I was trying to do it live. Doesn't work out very well for me. But thank you, Zen. And yeah, absolutely love to have any of you guys in here. The more people in here talking, the less we're just reading comments. We can actually talk one-on-one. That's why we got to get Zen in here. I'm gonna talk you into it, I swear. But just I would absolutely love someone.
That's key too to, I think, growing our hobby and keeping seahorses out there is keeping people interested.
Yeah. Not just us talking, but yeah. Having someone come in and say, even like Chris Carey has, where you don't show your face, just saying, so what do you, well, Chris is going to show his beautiful face
now,
but just, like live saying, well, what do you mean you don't like sand in a tank? Why not? And if I want natural, what does that mean? What does it mean for the coloration of the seahorses? Asking, because we can sit here and talk, but without someone asking questions, we're missing stuff. I know we are, right? We could say, I make a K1 media reactor, and you guys are all like, what? Right. Yeah. And I can't, without thinking, oh, they don't know what I mean, without someone asking the question, I don't answer it. So we invite anybody to come in. That's what we're here for, to help each other, to network. And I will really try to get something up by next Wednesday, and then we can talk about what we want to do with it, how we want to do it. Unless, of course, Fish Fam Links wants to do it, because I'd rather you do it. So let me know if you're going to do it. I won't bother, but I will try in the meantime. But with that, I think we are going to end it for tonight. We've been going a long time. Throat's dry, wine's gone. Time to end. We got Chris Carey's big eyes, beautiful eyes. All right. You guys, we'll be back next week. And thank you for new subscribers. And thank you for all of you that joined and that you watch later. I know some people can't come on Wednesday, but thank you to everybody who watches later. And with that, we're going to say Happy Wine Wednesday, Holly. Let's do it. Happy Wine Wednesday. Empty glass.